What's up, good movie lovers, and welcome to Movie Night for Superman 3.
I review movie previews.
We continue our feature-length, in-depth analysis of every Superman movie leading up to Man of Steel. This is where everything goes wrong. When someone other than Superman becomes the focus of the story, bad things are gonna happen. When a franchise like this falters, it's really important to take it as a learning opportunity. What were the mistakes that it made? What were the factors influencing it? And how can we gain wisdom from it and avoid these same missteps in the future? If you've never listened to a movie night before, it's basically a feature-length audio commentary. A full-length movie review as we're watching the film together. You sync up the video on your end with the audio here. Throughout the movie night, there will be moments of silence ranging from 5 to 10 to 30 to 60 seconds in length. This is just me taking some time to gather my thoughts. For the Superman movies, I've brought along a longtime Superman fan and TMPC friend by the name of Chris. In this case, the silence is really taken because we're angry at the horribleness of the film, or just catching our breaths from laughing so much at the ridiculousness. Make sure to hang around after the movie night finishes for some closing thoughts. Normally in movie nights we count down the sync up of the video and the audio at the end of this introduction. But Chris and I discuss a few things before we actually press play, so pay attention to the cue for that. It actually starts about 2 minutes and 48 seconds from right now. Chris, now we enter the dark times.
The beginning of the end, as it were.
Of the Superman franchise of the 80s, as we're going on to part 3 here.
The premature death of the superhero movie.
So his weakness is not Kryptonite or even Lois Lane.
It's Richard Pryor.
And greed and bad writing.
And low budgets and
True.
Warner Brothers and all sorts of... It's so much worse than the last one. I mean, and you notice it right from the start.
Yeah, so we haven't pressed play yet because we just watched the trailer.
Yeah.
And I think trailers are a good indication of kind of what, like an encapsulation of the times, if you will.
Right.
So the trailer, I mean, it's in it, it says, Richard Pryor's coming to Metropolis.
Yeah, this movie seems to be more like, we got Richard Pryor, let's do something with him. I mean, you're doing a movie about Superman, and now it's like, you're already just gonna be, well, that's too old. We don't need to worry about Superman anymore. Let's bring in the wacky element, bring in some comic relief. And...
Yeah, because arguably at the time, Richard Pryor was one of the biggest.
Yeah, even though like none of his movies did well at all. Yeah, which is unfortunate because he was a comedic genius, but he just never really found the movie role that fit him.
Even those movies with Gene Wilder, like none of those, because they were a couple.
They were fun, but there was never anything that really fit like his sensibility outside the movies. Like it was a different, much more of a wackier character in the movies than he was on stage. Yeah, and I guess he paved the way for Eddie Murphy, where this is '83, so Eddie Murphy's gonna blow up with Beverly Hills Cop in the next couple of years, and probably Pryor might be looking, saying, "How come I didn't have the success that Eddie had?" Yeah, because he kind of paved the way for him. Yeah, Richard Pryor can't play a cop or anything though. So. Yeah, you don't buy it, right? No, instead he plays like the toy. right, with Jackie Gleason. So yeah, the preview was very much Richard Pryor's in this movie. It's going to be comedic. Richard Pryor's in it. There's some computers. We're going to show you the whole movie in the trailer because we got to get you out there somehow. Because some of the only interesting things in the movie happen. If they were going to give you a standard trailer, you wouldn't even want to see the movie because there's nothing to tease. Right. There's very little good moments in the movie. There are some. I'll point them out. But... we'll talk about them. But the trailer was like 3 minutes long. So we talked, like you made a great point. We kind of complained today that trailers reveal a lot. Right. This was literally the entire movie. It's the movie, If you have the DVD, watch it. It's from beginning to end. You see the entire arc of the story. Right. And you see the climax of the movie. So let's press play and we're going to get into it. I'm nervous. I'm a little bit nervous about... And you get the start of sequels just going the wrong way. And originally this was supposed to have Brainiac and even Supergirl, which would have made it more like a Batman Forever type sequel, like overstuffed. Yeah. Instead we get the complete opposite of just an empty sequel with nothing. We're starting a Superman movie with Richard Pryor. The first shot of the movie is Gus Gorman, a close-up on his face. Yes. And one of the main focuses, and even when you're writing a screenplay, is whose character journey is this? Mm-hmm. And right now they're telling us that we're going to be following the journey of Gus Gorman. Right.
I think for me, if I'm looking at this from a writing point of view, what's the journey that Superman must now make from the end of part 2 into part 3? If you're going to do a part 3, conceive it from that point of view of what do we want Superman to experience now? You know, what's his struggle?
And how does Richard Pryor see that?
And how does Richard Pryor see that? So right now we're just getting, you know, the focus is...
I immediately compare it to the first two movies where you start out in space.
Right.
You start out in space. Even the second one, you start out with the credits and the glide through space. You know, the first one you start on Krypton. Here we start in unemployment office.
Yeah, exactly. And we just get basically the director telling Richard Pryor, like, okay, make these lines funny, ham it up, kind of do your thing.
You could possibly start the movie with a villain somewhere on Earth or something, but obviously this is just very low rent already.
Yeah, because the thing with a villain is that the villain has to be kind of an aspect of the main character that the main character needs to challenge himself with and to overcome. Right. The best villains reveal our fears, make us face them, and make us into stronger people by a result of that process. And
Gus Gorman, this movie has no real discernible motivations at all. He just kind of careens from one thing to the other. So here he's getting cut off on unemployment. Then he suddenly, we'll see, he suddenly becomes a computer genius, and then he's a bad guy for some reason. And there's never any questioning of anything.
It's just Deus Ex Machina nonstop. Like, okay, I asked for a light, earn big money, become a computer programmer.
He's possibly the number one star of this movie. Definitely at least the number two. And he's all surface. There's no character to him at all. And I like how that was reason enough to cut to the credits. Become a computer programmer. Boom. There's your super opening. And again, now instead of the credits going through space with the classic Superman beginning, they're going over this. We get like slapstick, the nearsighted, farsighted. Look at this, the Richard Lester. I forgot about these credits, and I think that they're one of the worst opening credit sequences ever. And this whole sequence here of laughter. Right. And again, there's no Superman here anyway. You're just wondering what. Like, imagine going to the theater after the first two Superman movies. 3 years later, or 3 years later, this comes out, and you go there, and this is what greets you. First you get Richard Pryor for whatever. I mean, obviously you know that already from the 3-minute trailer, right? But then you're watching this sequence of toy penguins on fire, and you start to wonder if you're in the right movie if it wasn't for the credits. That's right. The name of the movie. It's almost like everyone who was in that city scene during the fight in part 2 have gotten their own movies. All those extras, like, where's the guy with the vest on the roller skates? I'm kind of waiting for him to show. We did see a roller skater, so this is Richard Lester saying that fight was kind of my idea of what I would make a Superman movie, where I wanted the comedy of the people and all the bystanders. Now let's do that as the opening sequence. And this is, here we go, Superman, or Clark Kent at least, 4 minutes into the movie. His first act of Superman action is to blow out the Penguin. And yes, that's his big heroic moment. So, yeah, it's just, everything is just so much lower stakes. Did he tear the paper because he didn't know his own strength? Is that what that's supposed to be? Apparently he's still, I mean, it doesn't quite make sense if he's the bumbling Clark Kent, but he still is just, can't control his... Yeah. I don't know. This is just obviously no thought really went into the. Oh, this is just so sad to watch this whole sequence. I mean, literally, there's bombs on fire here. It's like, Keystone Cops. Yeah, and it just does not fit. It just does not. Look at this. Watch this. 1983 parkour right here. Shoo! That's a quick getaway right there. Action. And he probably could have gunned on the stairs quicker. Yeah. How about just taking off the mask? And then we get the bank robbery, and Superman isn't even there for the bank robbery. No, this is what he's reduced to. He doesn't even foil the bank robbery. He didn't know that there was a bank robbery going on. Instead, he's going to save this guy who cannot open a car door. I'm trapped. He's like, that's it. I don't know what to do. I have no clue how to get out of this car. And then, this guy pulled so hard that the handle broke. Now, this is neither funny, if that's what Lester's going for, nor is it, like, exciting in terms of a set piece. Yeah, first, I mean, the man's drowning, so it's not, the funniest thing in the world. And, let's give some credit to Christopher Reeve for still having dignity amongst all these.
Committing 100%.
Yes, he's not really treating it as a joke.
No, and the way that he sells it with this kid here,
despite
just kind of like here,
everyone else in this movie is.
That's a fun little idea with the photo booth, but it just now what's this effect? Why?
I don't know what the Vaseline on half the frame is supposed to represent. Again, this is just it speaks to the low stakes of this movie. Is that this is his opening?
Yeah.
This is his opening act of heroism. This is the action set piece to open the movie. Whereas the first one is the destruction of a planet, and the second one we get the Paris bomb flying into space. Here we have rescuing man from sunroof. And
chain of Rube Goldberg comedy events.
And man carrying an umbrella, even though it's sunny out.
And of course, then this is mustard or paint, cheese, a bucket of cheese getting poured on his head. And there's a mime. Wait, no. And here...
Yes. And Superman's already done his thing, and we're still on this street sequence of ridiculousness.
So David and Leslie Newman, there are the writers who are to blame for this.
Yeah. Apparently, they were the original writers of the original Superman script, which then Donner got rid of all the, well, not all, but a lot of the slapsticky comedy bits and
over the top stuff.
So when this movie came out, that was their opportunity to do it again.
A pie in the face.
Yes.
I mean, we just literally had a pie in the face in a Superman movie. It's 7 minutes 37
it's like
seconds.
Ice cream it's like the ice cream in the second the end of the second one with the roller skater and all that.
Yeah. So that's that you can really tell that was.
They couldn't have a pie store. They had an ice cream store, so they had to wait until now.
Yeah.
To actually stick the pie in the face.
The pie. He's like, if I get to direct the next movie, I'm gonna get my pie shot.
And now we're used to leaps of logic in comic book movies. You know, okay, this guy has powers, whatever. But this unemployed guy literally walks into this class, hits a few buttons, and can do anything. He just has this natural proclivity to be a computer genius. And that's just the way computers were treated, especially early on. It was just whatever you wanted. They were the ultimate plot device. Like, that's true. Like war games and all that were... Like, oh, a computer can do this, a computer can do that. But that's interesting you bring up war games, though, because that at least established that this guy had those skills early on, because he's going into like the school's computer and changing a grade, right? And there's a build up to those skills. Here we just have I typed this and I don't even know how I did it, but I got this to do it. It's like, well, it's basically a character being controlled by a god saying, the writing god, the directing god saying, I don't know why I'm doing this, but here are the actions. There's nothing innate about my... like something within me that's driving me to this. Like you're saying, if it was the Matthew Broderick character in War Games, well, he's been doing it his whole life. He's fascinated by it. He's passionate about it. And it would make sense. But here it's like, well, we just need Richard Pryor. So we got to have a funny scene at an unemployment office. And then we got to have a funny scene of him being a computer genius. Yeah, obviously, Richard Pryor's not going to fight Superman, so how does he do it? And we originally wanted Brainiac, so we'll just bring in another computer, and there you go. And back then, I guess you would imagine that since the culture wasn't so nerdified or aware of comic books and all this, that a Brainiac would be too abstract for people to get, even though not really. It's just the producers not having faith. I guess it's easier to buy an unemployed guy learning how to do anything with his computer within 5 minutes. Yeah. So, it doesn't really make sense to me. But so this, I mean, if I was a reader at a studio or someone in a screenwriting class reading the script, I'd just be like, cut this. Because, like, no character-based motivation. Just, what is this? Why is this tone like this? And it's just, it's the director wanting to kind of have his comedy, and it's the producers forcing a big name to be in the movie. Right. And now everything's being worked around it. Mm-hmm. And the death of the series begins here in the beginning because this movie's not based around anything going on inside of Clark Kent or Superman. Well, I mean, I would argue that what's going on inside of Clark, at least at this point, is one of the redeeming factors in that. I do like the Clark Kent going back to Smallville
That's a promise of something that could really work. Yeah.
Yes.
Because this is the first opportunity for him to go back after he's become Superman, after he's left and become kind of the person who he is. Like, one of the things in this Joseph Campbell, the circle of kind of the hero's journey, is once you've gone through the trials and tribulations, you come back to impart the wisdom or to kind of tell the story. That's the real treasure of everything, the journey that you had.
Right.
But what does Smallville have to show him, or what does he have to go through in Smallville that can, make him more of a hero, Superman, human kind of character? Because he wants to be.
Yeah, there's not a lot of
a human character.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of development of that in this movie, but there is that spark of something.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the scenes are played well, so
yeah,
there's that. But there's no real conflict between his okay. A way to make this movie work a lot better would be later in the movie you have the jerk Superman, not the evil Superman. You just have the jerk.
The
Superman,
jerk, right?
And him versus the Clark Kent person. So you could kind of juxtapose that with this of the Clark Kent of Smallville versus the big city.
Yeah,
there's some dichotomy there you could possibly work out. I'm no screenwriter, but
no, you are. You are.
Can have some sort of parallel
thousands of
there.
Movies, and come on, we're all screenwriters,
But instead, you just get. I mean, the Smallville stuff's all kind of just surfacey and not really. It feels more like we don't have enough money to shoot a lot of Superman scenes, so let's have lots of Clark Kent in this movie.
That's a great way to summarize it. Even though the first two movies made hundreds of millions of dollars,
right?
And we're talking late '70s, early '80s. So, I mean, while inflation was going on, I mean that's big money. That's real money back then. And now
they're not paying Marlon Brando a ridiculous sum anymore. They're not.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman's not around.
And Richard Pryor, I mean, I guess you pay him his money, but he's not gonna break the bank up by any means.
Right.
And both Hackman and Kidder, they kind of publicly protested how Donner was treated, I guess, by these producers.
Yeah.
So that's why they're not.
Hackman refused to be in there, and then I guess Margot Kidder wanted to be in it, but I don't know. The story is that they didn't like her criticism, so they cut her out.
They just kind of give her the bit part.
But then the producer's story is that no, they wanted to focus on Smallville, so who knows?
Okay. And that's another sign where one of the characters who's kind of an anchor for Clark Kent, Superman's emotions of the last two films, leaves in the first scene that we see her.
Right.
Okay,
and again, that could work with Lana Lang, but
I think that
a lot of development there.
Ending a relationship like that, there needs to be some kind of a better closure.
Yeah.
Even though at the end of the second one, he did that kiss that kind of erased your memory. We want to see something on Clark Kent that's a little more, I don't know, impactful. We want to see that it hit him a little.
Well, again,
bit
that
more.
could have been part of the conflict between the two sides of Superman.
That's right.
You could have Lana Lang, and he can go back to Lois at the end of the movie instead of just what this movie does, which is kind of just not go anywhere. There's no conclusion to that story whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, it's based so much on just the genre and the set pieces of wanting to do the comedy more and the Richard Pryor, because we have him in the movie finally. So let's, take advantage of the star power. And hey, this is exactly how computers work, by the way. You can just
you just point at it. This is what I do in my job. I work IT,
so can we say that the whole story plot device from Office Space was taken from Superman 3?
Well, they say that in the movie, in Office Space.
Yeah.
So yes.
Well, I haven't seen it in a while.
Oh, okay.
I think I'll cut that part out. So let's rewrite that. So as mentioned in Office Space, this is where they get the idea for
it's the half a cent.
The half a cent idea, and it seems to work. Now, again in 1983, that kind of makes sense.
That's the enduring part of this movie is the 1 cent.
That if there's anything that came out of Superman 3, it is Office
What does
Space.
everybody remember from Superman 2 is Kneel Before Zod. I guess Superman 3, it's the half cent.
Half cent. Half cent off of every check. And now we have to have just kind of moments of him being Superman. It's, after all, it's kind of what we're going there for. So here, 15 minutes, 29 seconds. we just have the random plan on fire, and now it's time for 10 minutes of Superman trying to save, the local people and do good.
And setting up the plot device that will come in handy for the end of the movie.
Yeah. Because now in part 4, they get a little more character-based in terms of his thoughts. They do the one good line where he says, love all of them equally, not just one. Mm-hmm. Something when he's talking to Lois Lane, and then he kisses her again, and he makes her kind of memory disappear. So there's like the struggle of him trying to follow his father's advice, like, your mission is to save everyone, not to focus on your own things.
Right.
And that could go back to maybe that split with him somehow, where there's an evil version of him and there's that good version. And it's a really cool idea to see that physicalized. Like, okay, what if Superman had these kind of devil-angel battles going on his shoulder? Mm-hmm. And we could see that. I mean, now it's just random, just action sequence. Let's give all the stuntmen and everybody credit for doing it. They put a lot of hard work into it.
Again, there's really no point to this scene in the structure of the movie at all.
Right.
Like a lot of other superhero movies, your early action sequence has some setup to something. It's the setup of the main conflict, or in the origin stories, it's the first time he shows his powers. Like in the first one with the montage of the crime fighting. Yeah. Yes, it didn't have any real plot significance, but that was his first time exposing himself.
He has to somehow do it.
Right.
And if there was a powerful, motivated opponent at this point, they would be the ones responsible for this.
Right.
But because we don't have any clear opponent drive and motivation, we are just kind of just throwing these randomly at Superman.
Right.
Out of just coincidence. And by the way, everyone going down this asbestos slide is going to be dead in 20 years. It's a cool idea, and again, you can't CGI these flames, so it's the real deal. It's practical effects.
Well, again, I guess I don't know. I think you'll see the whole entire point of this scene right here is that we have to establish the way that he defeats the villain at the end. They needed a way to have the exposition without it being just completely. I mean, he could just visit this place without it being on fire and have the guy talk to him and tell him what the acid. I guess that would be worse. So.
And here's one of the characters that are the most motivated, Jimmy Olsen, where he got yelled at. It's like, don't miss that again. Don't. Yes. Superman was there and you didn't take a picture.
We know why Jimmy Olsen is here, but we don't know why Superman.
So far, Jimmy Olsen is kicking ass in this movie. He's going after what he wants. Here's one of the most ridiculous.
Right.
So we just have it remains stable. It's ordinary acid.
This is obviously backwards engineered. It's like, okay, we have the ending of this movie. How does he defeat the villain?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so it's acid, but the computer would see it was acid. Well, no.
I know just where to get it from.
And it eats through everything.
It's the 80s, baby. It's like 18 time right now. Things blowing up like that. Get off there. You're going to get hit. You're going to get hurt. So again, this is going to be like 5 to 7 to 8 minutes of just, okay, here's a sequence.
But it's better than a lot of what's in this movie, actually.
No,
it is Superman.
But a quick question right here. Okay, so 19 minutes, 12 seconds.
Yeah.
The acid is bubbling up.
Right.
Can't Superman just freeze the acid? Can he cool it down?
I guess he doesn't want to stay there and do it the whole time. I mean, we get the cool Superman walking through fire.
That's a good idea. Yeah, good idea. And then Olsen's actually hurt.
Yeah, I guess he's the lowest surrogate here. He has to save somebody. And his woman's not around,
So we're no longer interested in Lois. She's gone. So it's very much like Alien 3, where everything you cared about in the second movie is taken away from you at the beginning of the third.
Right.
And you're just like, okay.
Except for the big Jimmy Olsen fans.
That's right.
Finally,
Jimmy Olsen.
His moment to shine.
He's been hanging for 2 movies, and now it's time for this guy to get elevated. He just broke his leg, and that was a new power we saw Superman have, the X-ray vision. We didn't see him scan people's bones before.
No, we didn't see him, but we
did see Lex Luthor's office and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Now pay attention to the heat thermometer meter here, 20 minutes, 18 seconds. I think it's going to be some continuity errors going on when it's like super hot, then it's cold.
And even the flying effects aren't up to the same standard.
How did the flying effects in both of the next 2 movies, they got worse?
And they get progressively worse. Like, as time goes on, technology improves.
Yeah.
And you'll see in Superman 4 that the flying effects are just awful.
Is this the same lake where Zod landed, by the way? It kind of looks like the same... Right there, the guy in the boat was on this other angle over there. So they went to the same location. This is a cool idea. I like him freezing some of the... Now look, he froze a whole little mini lake pond in like 10 seconds, but he couldn't blow these acid containers. Cool.
Couldn't he just put out the whole fire?
Couldn't he just stand back and just freeze the whole plant?
Well, we saw in the second one when he had to cool off the truck's gas tank.
It was a long. It really took a long. And Zod's beam took about 10 minutes. And as soon as you drop it, it's going to be a whole rainstorm. There we go. Take care of business. So as a climax to that sequence, is that an inventive way to put the fire out?
Yeah, it works. I mean, maybe I'm betting part of the reason he doesn't just blow the fire out is we've seen that before. Yeah. So have him do something unique.
So even though it's practical and it makes sense, we're like, well, we want to see a new way of Superman using his powers.
Right.
So if you're writing a Superman movie in the 80s, I'm imagining there's a big board, kind of like in Cabin in the Woods, where the monsters are all listed, but you list all the different things Superman could do to use his powers. Like, what would be cool things to see Superman doing?
Right.
Pushing the moon, freezing a lake, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
so we just saw X-ray and freezing a lake, and of course we always see flying.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the non-character based way to write a movie, because everything should come out of what he wants, which generates the conflict because there's someone fighting against him, and then whatever the organic nature of the solution is presents itself.
Whether that's, Superman saran wrap or
whatever, it just has to feel, the emotion has to feel like the right thing. And maybe Robert Zemeckis saw this before Back to the Future. We had this is the Marty McFly inspired dance.
Yeah, we have Clark Kent's villain here.
This guy could be a inspiration for Biff Tannen, possibly. What's that shot? Like 23 minutes, 4 seconds. Just crotch shot. Okay,
crotch shot.
Why not?
Get a little spicy in the PG movie.
We gotta establish that box there because it's gonna be important later on. We're now introducing Lana.
Yeah.
Played by that actress who was in a bunch of 80s movies that I don't know the name of.
And in the future we'll play Clark Kent's mother.
In what? Where?
Smallville.
Oh, nicely done.
So yeah, I mean, so these scenes are nice, but they just never go anywhere.
Well, we're 23 minutes into the movie, 24, 23:50 right now. And we don't feel any impending drama, peril, looking forward to any clashing of...
Richard Pryor has just stolen some money.
So he's doing his half a cent thing.
Right.
He's doing his Office Space thing.
Yeah, just look at the way to compare this to a modern superhero film. By now, we would absolutely have seen the villain in the movie. We would have seen his origin. Something. He would see his origin. Right? Probably wouldn't be doing anything evil quite yet. Probably even another 20 minutes, but we'd see his origin story or whatever is happening with him in those type of movies. Or you'd have the movies where there is no origin, like the Dark Knight movies.
You just get it going right off the bat.
But something would have happened at this point.
Yeah, and a way to look at it would be you have to cut. It's one train track, and from each direction is coming a train, and they're going to crash. So we want to cut to the main character moving along locomotive one direction, saying, "Here's what I want. Here's my objective. Here's who I am." Cut back to the opponent, saying, "Here's what I want. Here's who I am." And we're going to fight. Right. And hopefully around 30 minutes or somewhere, we're going to see that clashing.
And it's fine if you don't see much of them early on because if your movie's focused on the hero. Right. But there's still some, at least foreshadowing or something. You don't want it to just drop in out of nowhere. Yeah. Then again, perhaps Brad is the true villain of the movie, and we're seeing him now.
He's the silent villain. Yes. That Superman
and credit for pulling off that dance.
You know what? Christopher Reeve, he's 100% commitment. This man, He's like, look, I'm Superman. I'm gonna do it right. I'm not gonna. Maybe between takes, he's like, oh, how am I?
I know he was reluctant to do this one.
And then with part 4, it was like he wanted to have story issues.
In order for him to do part 4, not only did he have to do a story, but he also they had to fund one of his other movies, his pet project.
Okay, nice. Yeah, and there was a rumor that he might direct part 5 if it had ever been done or something.
He did some second unit work on part 4.
Okay,
I guess he was. Cool. I think he was even offered to direct, but thought it would be too much.
So trying to hone some new skills, and why not? Right. Go for it. So Gus Gorman's little mini motivation here. Right. Now he's not a villain again because his thing is like I'll make money.
He has no motivation. Okay, he did this. He stole the money.
He's kind of a scam artist a little bit. Right. So
okay, so we get that.
Is moving along nicely. You know, for what it is.
We do see that in the Unemployment Office. He's a bit of a con. He's a bit of the smooth talker.
Yeah.
In a way, he's trying to get away with things. That just that just goes nowhere.
Yeah.
And eventually, he escalates for no real reason, and then completely turns for no real reason.
Because the real villain is the stand-in for Lex Luthor.
Yeah,
the businessman
the low
guy.
Lex Luthor.
Yeah, the low rent Lex Luthor.
I feel like
Max Luthor.
Yeah. I feel like Robert Vaughn's probably been the low rent in a lot of things.
Robert career. Vaughn is that unsung '80s hero who always was there when who played the guy in Total Recall. He's the guy when Michael Ironside couldn't take a bad guy role. Vaughn was there to step in. So he's kind of that guilty pleasure movie lovers actor sort of thing. And this moment here where Clark and Lana are cleaning up everything after the prom, the reunion prom. 27 minutes 40 seconds.
And this actually illustrates there's more of a character arc for Lana in here than there is for Clark. At least she learns that she wants to leave Smallville and go to the big city.
That's true. Nicely put. So that's a good example of, okay, so she's living her normal life.
Right.
Clark Kent comes in, disrupts it, and by the end she's ready to make a big change. Sure. So we need that for Clark Kent and Superman. He's doing his thing. Who comes in to disrupt it? Mm-hmm. What is his next step? So we basically have Richard Pryor doing his thing, Clark and Lana, Jimmy Olsen's in the hospital somewhere.
Having this Clark Kent storyline here would just make more sense if there was, and it would make that impact of the Clark Kent Superman fight just so much more better if we had the opposite side of seeing him in Metropolis or whatever. Perhaps when he's in Metropolis and he's Superman, it's almost that there you go. It's a test of his selflessness because there's just so much to do.
Yeah.
There's so many people to save at all times. And when he's in the city, there's all these things to do. And he goes to Smallville and kind of just gets it away from it all. And he has that conflict. So then when you have the Superman who doesn't really give a about people.
Right.
And that ends up being it's like a heightened version of that same inner conflict.
Yeah.
And then he ends up defeating that.
Nicely done.
Because
that's the real fresh, interesting new part of this movie is when he starts acting like a
right,
like blowing out the Olympic flame. You're like, I kind of want to watch this guy, but I wish he had been in the movie like 30 minutes beforehand.
Right, and that's another one that feels like maybe it's a cop out, but I actually kind of like that he's not. He doesn't just turn evil; he just turns into a selfish type, which is more of the opposite of what Superman is than if he would just become an evil type guy.
So if you could somehow justify like the splitting off where they're both physically there,
right.
And justify, okay, well, why would this guy exist? Why would he exist? Then we could see that battle going on. Or maybe it's more of an internal split personality battle. I don't know. Just there's something to be said for him kind of doing the selfish thing because he is so selfless.
Right.
And that's a big struggle, something he battled with in part 2 when he talked with his dad and or mother in the other version. So there's a lot of that. So maybe even Lois Lane and him having a fight at the beginning of this or breaking up or I mean they're not together but something where like she's never gonna love Clark or there's got to be some kind of something that maybe she announces she's gonna get married, like so that he'll never have her.
Or she's still so swept up in Superman that she doesn't like Clark as much as obviously Lana does. Lana doesn't even doesn't need him to be Superman at all. She likes him,
right?
The way he's grown up, which isn't entirely him exactly, but so yeah, there's a lot of potential there, but instead we just saw Richard Pryor in a Ferrari.
Yeah. Well, and that is a kind of a funny little moment where Vaughn's like, he'll make a mistake, you know, and then he pulls up and you get money, so you buy a Ferrari. It's like in Goodfellas. You don't buy anything. I tell you don't buy anything. Take it back. Mm-hmm. But it's in a mother's name. Take it back. So it's...
And I never quite understand. Okay, so Clark's back. So how long is he staying in Smallville? I don't... Because he was going back for the reunion, but then he's just always there for like 2 weeks or something.
It's like he's going to write the story.
Right.
So normally, if you were exploring his character, maybe he starts writing the story and it starts bringing up some issues for him, you know, makes him think about it. This is kind of like, you know, coolest dad in the world moment, like, you know, using this power. And it's just so over the top, like, I laughed ridiculously. Because is this guy, even though I just watched this movie, he's not the father, right?
No, he's just the local jerk. No, it's never mentioned at all where the father went.
Okay, so
I don't think, maybe, unless we missed it.
He just had a thing with Lana when they were in high school, and he wants to keep rekindling that, or he's
just the former jock who can't let go of
the glory and all the former glory, and so he's killing it with the role, you know, just okay.
This is amusing, but at the same time, it's one of those weird things where it's
like and she smiles,
right? And everybody's just okay, but then she says Gesundheit. So does people realize that like he just sneezed the ball down, or is it just that was a funny coincidence? Like
the pins were shattered. Like if that was anyone else, it would just be like, what is going on? But everyone's just laughing, and she's like, "Oh, God bless you." So done for the comedy. Right. Go for the emotion, I guess, but just at the absolute expense, stripped away, just beaten down logical expense of our minds right there. Yeah, it's a funny moment, but it's just like what? And now it doesn't lead to anything. That's the problem. Like the writers are like, "Oh, this would be funny if this Superman did this." Right. But what happens does not lead to any other scene. It does not carry over emotionally. The characters aren't impacted by it. Mm-hmm. So now, you know, we left Smallville. Is there right now any kind of an anticipated payoff that we're wanting to return to Smallville for? Like, did that scene end with some sort of a drive out of, I want to go back and find out what happens next? Not really.
Certainly not, no.
It was funny, and now we're going to cut back, and it's going to be a random moment with no momentum to it at all.
Right.
Now this we kind of expected because we had the cut from the car, so the boss knows that he's doing this.
Right.
So when we cut back, we're like, oh, he's going to get in trouble. So that has the momentum. So Superman's story has no momentum at the moment.
Good point, yeah.
There's no carryover from the drama that's going on.
And, I mean, this just completely feels like we could not get Gene Hackman, so we have this other guy. We'll call him, you know, Rex Ruther or something. There's no...
From Scooby-Doo.
It's the exact same character. It's the exact same character, just a different actor, and we're not calling him that. And I guess he's this is a businessman. He's not a criminal.
Yeah.
I guess, which is actually more in line with the modern portrayal of Lex Luthor anyway. So
sure. And you could say that in the 80s as like, you know, again, stock market Wall Street, that was kind of like becoming like this greed is good thing. But this guy kind of captures that mentality a little bit.
For all intents and purposes, this is Lex Luthor.
And here we go. Time for a wacky comedy moment that I guess I would love to be in the theater at this time in 83. Like, are people laughing as this is happening?
What is going on?
Websco.
And whoever came up with that, like, I want to know. They must have. They came up with a character name, and then they just decided let's add a O, and we're good. I don't. Webs Corp. Webs, you know.
I mean, Oscorp, right? No.
Evil Incorporated. I don't. And the leaps we take in this is very amusing to me. First, we had Gus not knowing anything about computers. and becoming a genius, and then hacking, getting $90,000, and then we move up to computers can control the weather. We're just gonna keep building on top of it, layers upon layers. You have no chance. And at some point, your suspension of disbelief, knowing you're watching a movie, watching A Man Who Can Fly.
Yeah.
Still,
we've accepted that.
Right. But that's also, it's a fantastical element. Computers are a real thing.
Yeah.
So making this leap is it's too far.
Oh my God, yeah. and especially for Gus Gorman to just be like, I'm just learning at this exponential rate of,
right.
Now I figured out how to steal half a cent, so now I can control the weather. Now I can just control oil tankers.
I mean, this isn't even like the early 90s type computer plot where it's like a virus will get into all the computers and shut down the world or something.
Yeah.
Which is at least has some base in plausibility. Instead, it's just, yes, we will control the weather with computers.
Well, I guess it's because computers... And her name is Mrs. Vulcan?
No, Vulcan is the weather satellite.
Okay.
She's his sister, but yeah, he has his two henchmen or henchwomen.
So that's supposed to be a joke that it's the sister? Storms and floods, heat waves.
And this doesn't even... this seems like it comes at the opposite time. Because later you have him control the oil tankers. That seems like you do that first.
Right.
Because that seems a little more plausible. You control the oil tankers. That's just a matter of sending commands or whatever.
Because we are communicating.
You're not doing something completely outlandish. Maybe if you started with the oil tankers, then you move to the whole controlling the weather thing.
Yeah.
It might make more sense.
Because then I guess we ask, so the Vulcan satellite, does the government know it's capable of this? Or does he reprogram it from Earth?
It watches the weather, therefore it must be able to create weather. Much like... Yeah, I can watch baseball. That must mean I can play
it. Exactly.
I must be very good at it.
I watched all the Bulls games. Now I'm Michael Jordan.
Now you're dunking.
Nicely done. Now you're dunking. Are there any stakes for Gus Gorman right here? I mean, I guess he'd go to jail, right?
I guess he's doing it because otherwise they'll turn him in.
Okay, and he'll get caught.
So we have that.
So they got him. And now here's the next leap. We gotta go someplace small.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to Smallville, of all places.
Right.
Where the writers are now forcing the opponents...
They must have looked at a map and just saw small.
Small. This is it. What's small? Okay.
And we have our first meeting.
And it's funny. It's hilarious. You open the car door on him.
So Gus does have some motivation here where he's doing it just to not go to jail.
Yeah. So from this point out...
The point where it becomes completely... His character becomes completely worthless as far as motivation comes a bit later.
Yeah.
At least now there's at least some sort of through line.
And now, and it's all kind of just this camouflage for the fact that we just need Richard Pryor in as many scenes just doing his shtick.
Right.
There's probably the best shot of the movie right here, the rainbow that they managed to capture.
Well, I do enjoy coming up. I think the shot of him changing the Superman up here is a really good one. Through the fence.
Right.
It's a nice effect.
And we haven't had Superman save anybody, so we're going to have another
Jimmy
set
Olsen,
piece.
Oh, you mean in the last...
every 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. We want to have some kind of... it's going to feel like we're missing these set pieces.
This is the whole running gag between them where he thinks she's saying one thing, and he's actually saying the other, and then it goes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
High comedy.
So, for their drama or their... their scene here, do they want anything from each other? Are they kind of fighting for something? It's pretty just neutral. Like, there's really not...
Doesn't he have, a super sense of smell? Why is he eating dog food?
Because he's... Yeah, for the joke.
But he plays it off. He's like, come on. Give him props there.
And there was no reason for him to do it, because she does not...
I do love that little look right there. It's so brief, you might have even missed it there. It's the most awkward... sitting down, very Clark Kent nerdish, and it's just I love that little moment.
Yeah, just again, Christopher Reeve playing Clark Kent. He's just going all in on it. So now we have the romantic relationship starting here. Now, it's not giving us... It should be giving us mixed feelings because we still think of him with Lois.
Right.
So we needed something like that earlier on. We needed some kind of a...
And you wonder if it's bad writing or if they thought of that too and they just didn't want to go too far with it, because you get a slight romantic hint here, but it never really goes there.
Mm-hmm. Well, why does he hang around? This would be his reason to stay there.
Obviously, he's into her. They're into each other, but it never. This is the most you ever get.
Well, one of the important factors...
Right here, this moment is actually the closest they get in the whole movie.
You know, you're right. And this is actually a really nice moment. They take some time with it. They do some close-ups. Now, how did she know that it's dripping? The dripping is in the front of the car.
Superhero.
And they're in the middle of the field. And then she's like, oh, I took some mechanic classes. Or I know what I'm doing. She's like the very practical small-town girl. So why did the Deus Ex Machina writers decide to stop that great scene where there could be some development of character and emotion?
I love that little... did we need that? Did you need that at all? It's very subtle. I don't even think I picked up on the first few times I saw this movie.
Yeah.
It's so... But the cone of hearing... Completely unnecessary.
It's like from those 50s and 60s films in high school they show you, the educational films.
I like this.
That's a nice effect. It's a cool idea. But notice again, this is all just being forced. Okay, we have to stop the scene and you have to go fix the car, and then he has to be knocked out on the field, and it just happens to be the day that they're.
Well, it's kind of like the kid falling off the Niagara Falls.
Yeah, good call. It's exactly the same scene. Now, again, it's 1983, so we probably haven't seen part 2 100 times, so we might not remember it off the bat. And he stops it.
And I think he gives the guy driving kind of a look like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, that guy didn't know. Come on, Superman.
Give the guy a break. And seriously, that effect of him flying up is better than any of the effects in part 4.
Yeah.
It's one of the better ones in this movie. Part 1 and 2, of course, do it pretty fluidly. But no,
I keep going back to that cone, the ear cone. Sorry.
It's
like directing 101. You're seeing him obviously looking around, hearing something. We all get that he's hearing something far away.
Yeah.
You don't need that at all.
There should have been a sound effect there. And hey, Ricky, you just had a big gash in your head. Now you're fine. Where's the dog, by the way? Is the dog okay? Oh, there we go.
Poor stupid Ricky.
And we go back to the... this is the total... you ever see that Three's Company episode, the Jack Tripper, where his cousin came, his country cousin?
They do
it nonstop. Yeah, they do it big time in 4. A huge sequence of it, yeah. So it's anytime he has to do the Clark and that.
Yeah.
It's just all that kind of a silly comedy.
But even that little throwaway line could have meant more if we had that conflict again. So, if I had a nickel for every time I heard about Superman. There you go.
Yeah.
But...
Now again, notice as we leave that scene, it doesn't leave us wanting to return for some dramatic reason.
No.
There's nothing that's been created.
There's zero happening with Superman in this movie.
Yeah.
We're in 45 minutes of this movie, almost into this movie. Nothing is going on with Superman.
Minutes, 47 seconds. And now Gus Gorman, he's got the momentum, right? Because he looked at the suit, he bought the suit, he's got the computer thing, he's got to somehow hack into whatever and take control. He's got momentum, but Superman is just kind of waiting.
He's driving the entire story of this movie.
Yeah.
I'd love to watch this and see... I'd love to go back and actually count up the minutes that it's him versus the minutes that it's Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
And see how...
Well, that should be a fan edit of the movie, to take out everything with Clark Kent and Superman, and just leave in, or just leave in anything that has Richard Pryor in it.
Right.
Just make it his movie. And notice that, okay, so the big thing is I show you all the alcohol and I'll let you in. How did he know he was an alcoholic or that he enjoyed the
I
drink?
guess he just assumes anyone who works nights.
Anyone in Smallville's gonna...
And they got the hat. We just happen to have the hat.
Why does he have a hat? Why does he have... So
we had a hat like this in one of my college video production projects because it was so silly. So that's what this feels like. It's like we have some stuff laying around. Let's throw it on. Yeah. It's funny.
Well, let's do a little exercise. So before they call action, they're rehearsing the scene. Gus, here's your motivation. Small town, bully jock that never grew up. Here's your motivation. Let's get the scene going. Wait, no, we got to make it funny. How can we make the scene funny? Anyone got a really big hat?
Acting like an over-the-top drunk, both of you. That's not doing enough. We need the hat. Bring in the hat.
And then fall over. And he's drunk.
I think coming up is my favorite bit of plot product placement, too.
Okay.
Because we're in an office. We're in a computer office, right?
Right.
So why in this computer office... Okay, it's not coming up yet. Why is there a giant Kentucky Fried Chicken bag in the closet? Like, you don't keep that. Why is that there?
"47 minutes.
Have you ever hung on to a bag from a fast food restaurant? Like, I might need
have
this
you
later.
ever gotten a bag that big from a fast food restaurant?
I guess if you're working in an office, you're buying for everybody, maybe.
How much chicken did they order? That's like a massive... That's like... We're talking like 5 24-piece buckets right there. Now, KFC was I guess, in part 2. They were one of the background there. So I guess they thought, okay, we want to sponsor it again.
But they could not figure out a way to do it organically.
So
let's put this
right there. That's worth $40,000. And now, of course, he can't turn it on in a quick way, so we can develop the story and move that forward.
No, we need this because we have the comedic sequence here.
So the intentions here are to be funny. So again... They film that scene, we cut to this scene, okay, now your motivation is you gotta enter the code. Wait, you're Richard Pryor, you gotta do something funny. Well, how can this be funny? What if you gotta do it with 2 hands?
And in case you missed it the first
time. 48 minutes, 12 seconds,
we'll
KFC.
Hold on it too there for a minute.
That was a solid. You know that KFC saw the rough cut, they're like, we need at least like 3 clear seconds on that. So now, you could say that James Cameron stole this for Terminator 2. When they have to get the parts of the Terminator out of the office as they're kind of blowing it up.
Right.
And then Miles Bennett Dyson and John Connor. I'm going to hold to that.
Also,
I'm going to say that Superman 3 inspired one of the greatest sequels of all time. A brief moment in the sequel.
Yeah. Now, Richard Pryor inspired Miles
Bennett Dyson. Richard Pryor should have played Miles Bennett Dyson. Or at that point in time, maybe Eddie Murphy. Or Chris Tucker. Or Chris Rock. At least Richard Pryor's committed to it. It's probably like, you know what, it ain't working.
Now we get the classic 80s scene of computers going haywire. Because
if that spins, it means bad.
Right.
There we go. 49 minutes.
As seen in Maximum Overdrive, for example.
That's Maximum Overdrive. That's... What if Richard Pryor created Maximum Overdrive? What if Superman 3...
That's what these bits remind me of.
Now here's another bit, right? So, okay, again, I want to have a funny scene, so what can I do?
But how long? I think we're at the 10-minute mark of this.
This whole sequence kind of here with...
Yeah, because it was I don't know, I think it was like 42 minutes when we cut away finally from Clark and Smallville. So we've been doing this for a while. And it's gonna keep going.
Yeah. Oh.
Alright, so press a few buttons and then we get more wacky computer hijinks.
Here we go. Lights on.
This is like the Weird Science scene. You know, they're going on the computer and then all of a sudden everybody's clothes are coming off.
Now notice, okay, So he's pushing it. This guy got a check.
And, I know.
Oh,
he just
how did he get the check?
Maybe
it's timeout.
I think we're cutting forward. This is like this is what's gonna happen tomorrow.
This is the flash forward.
Yes.
And now look at the way that he responds to the wife.
And his
here.
immediate thought is not that. Well, this is obviously a computer error. This is
I'm gonna put a grapefruit in your face.
$175,000 at the department store.
And
in 1983 money, no less.
That's right. And I'm gonna put a fruit in your face. I'm not gonna talk with you. And now again, this is just going on. Oh, now here comes just my favorite. Like, this is the point. Like, if the movie jumps the shark right here, if there is a moment for that right here, 51
I feel
minutes.
like they did this. They wanted it. Didn't they do this in like the airplane movies?
This is an airplane. This is a total airplane movie moment. This is where it becomes a spoof right now.
Right.
51 minutes, 15 seconds. The walk and the stop.
I feel like
guys.
that was stolen from, if not airplane, not airplane, but Airplane 2. I feel
One
like
of
that
those
happened.
movies.
I
It has
feel like
to
that
be.
exact thing happened.
It's a Zucker brothers. I think that Lester was sick that day, and he's like, "Listen, Zucker, just do whatever you guys want to do." I mean, this movie's just, it's not a Superman movie, anyways. I mean, that really just happened. Like that's more fighting than Superman has done in the movie. 51 minutes, 48 seconds.
But we need that to take the time because we can't actually show this part, which might actually be cool. The weather thing, we skip kind of right over that here, which you'll see, which is probably might be my biggest problem with this whole movie here. All right, so we have the satellite controlling the weather.
This is kind of cool where it's doing it, and then we get the scroll over the top.
Right.
But now we got to go back to the lottery winners.
Of course.
Of The Office.
You gotta connect it all. See, everything's connected. It's like Magnolia.
Wait, this is maybe the tightest screenplay ever written. Everything has a cause and effect.
It's like it's a precursor to like Pulp Fiction, when all the characters
It's all
intertwine.
If you actually edited this in a nonlinear manner, it would be a masterpiece.
Much like Memento. And then we get that scene of the guy getting the letter in the proper order.
In the proper order.
We get that like 20 minutes from now.
That's the clue. Lester left us like this Da Vinci Code clue. Look at the candles blowing out. That's genius.
So this is we have another natural disaster, much like the original movie, which we really don't see much of. I mean, okay, there's a bit of a rain and windstorm here.
Drop some fake bricks.
Right, a few bricks.
It's just like a huge boulder fell on the guy. He's like, oh, it's okay.
Some possible stock footage.
This is yeah.
And then okay, so we're getting into this, and we're like, okay, Superman's gonna come and actually do some stuff. Look, we got a scene of disaster and things happening. No, we're gonna watch the TV coverage of this.
Just tell us about that.
Stock footage, clearly.
That's the mega stock.
And then we cut away.
250 miles an hour, like that's a big statement.
There's our tornado stock footage. Again, we're just no effects budget whatsoever. They talk about it like it's the most awesome display of nature's power since Noah's Ark. And they talk this up. They defy all laws of weather systems on the side. But we're not going to show it to you. And it keeps worse.
And we're not going to say, where was Superman?
No.
Like, and
well,
what
that
is
comes
this?
up. That comes up because Superman did show up.
What is this?
That's even
54
worse.
minutes, 12 seconds. Why is there a ski lodge on the top of a building in the city?
It gets worse because Superman did show up.
Oh, yeah, because it's out of order now.
Right.
So they take away the dramatic impact of the moment by not having us see Superman's immediate reaction.
No.
We hear about it after the effect.
We still have not seen Superman in like a half hour, I think.
So the
I
last
don't
thing...
even know if we're watching a Superman movie.
The last thing he did was save the kid and pull the dog out of the little drain area. The airhead here, or pretending to be an airhead, but really like a genius. Another Gus Gorman.
Which again doesn't pay off at all. We just get it for the one joke. And that's it.
It'd be something different if at the end she's been doing that so that she can help, much like the other woman did for
this scene
Superman
here.
with
This scene encompasses the entire problem in this movie right here. Is this entire sequence. Not only did we already see the news footage of the most awesome nature's power that we've ever seen, natural destruction, horrible things.
250 mile an hour
right. Now we have Gus coming in here describing the scene that we should have seen in the movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
Instead of getting Superman, we get brief shots of Superman doing these things. Some of which are ridiculous, but at least he's flying around, he's doing super heroic things. Like, okay, flies into a storm here. That's it. We see more of him in his tablecloth. This is what we get.
Funny. It's not funny.
No, it's not funny. But instead of seeing the entire Superman sequence, we see this. This is what we get. It's the entire movie right there. Instead of what we want, which is Superman being Superman, we get Richard Pryor being Richard Pryor.
Right. So we traded the comedy and the star. But again, the character and the hero
it just makes it so much worse because he's explaining it all how awesome the thing that Superman was doing was.
This is the
and we don't get to see it.
We don't see it. We don't feel it. We don't experience it. And I guess their thinking is that it's funnier if we're seeing Richard Pryor describe it.
If that's your goal.
Look at dude, he's fighting the tornado.
And that's what we see. We just see this brief.
Who cares if you can't really grab a cloud, and do that? But he's Superman. Why not? He can magnetize.
He turned around the whole world or whatever. He can probably do that. But
he has any power.
Do we want to see Superman stopping a tornado, or do we want to see this?
So what would have happened is, as soon as Richard Pryor's in that office pushing the buttons, we cut to Smallville. Somehow Superman radar detects that Vulcan radar is doing something bad, and he goes into action. And we follow it through. We see him defeat the bad weather. Right. Superman defeats bad weather, And then we cut to this moment when now they're already reacting. Right here. We cut all the description of Richard Pryor out.
Right.
And we cut to him being like, Superman's a jerk, I gotta stop him somewhere.
Yeah. You show Superman saving some Colombian people, he's a world hero. Yeah. That sort of thing.
And now he knows about the opponents, and now he has to try to stop them. He goes to figure out what happened to the satellite. Who was responsible? Where'd the signal come from? And he goes into action. He has some momentum behind him now. He has an objective, he has a purpose, but no, he's kind of sitting around. We don't see him fly back to Smallville even and say that was kind of tiring.
We still haven't seen him in so long.
in so long.
And does it feel like this movie is just dragging? I mean, we're not even halfway through it, and it just feels like a slog.
There is over an hour to go.
Yes.
And for some reason, Gus Gorman has the pink cape on, and he's put skis on. Because that's going to set up the amazing gag.
Anything for a joke in this movie.
Yeah. It reminds me of in Transformers when they sacrifice the drama of the story for the character of what's going on and the emotions and the struggle.
Now he's gone from doing things because he's afraid of going to jail, and now he realizes he has the power here.
Right.
That he needs him. Okay, but then we lose that here. So, but we'll see it later. He admits he has the power, but now I don't know. He's going to go along.
This might be worse than the stop sign guys fighting. I don't know.
Oh, you mean falling 50 stories and landing on your feet and being... Because you land on your skis, I guess. That's cool. And
so let's make the skis and the cape pink, and he's basically like standing in for Superman in that moment. So we didn't get Superman.
No.
But we got the comedy moment. And now I'm back. I'm back to doing this.
So and now this guy we've seen as being like a thief, but I mean, we obviously we're coming in this movie knowing Richard Pryor. I think the movie there's nothing in this film that makes us want to dislike him.
Right.
We're supposed to like this character, but then he agrees with little resistance that he's going to help them kill Superman.
Yeah. And there's no who am I as a person? How far will I go to save my own, hide my...
No, I'm just going to go ahead and
cover my back kind of thing.
That's what the movie needs.
And you were talking about taking leaps of story faith. Right. And so now, not only could I control the weather, I'm going to somehow find the piece of Kryptonite out there to analyze it by shooting a laser beam into the Milky Way. Like, I don't know what to point it at. I don't know where Krypton is. I don't know how to find it.
I think it's still more plausible than the weather.
You believe this before
I do.
The weather control.
I do.
And then we have the comedy here, where the supposed comedy.
And it's kind of silly. Like they're so afraid of doing anything that is actually relates to the comic books that he came from in the first place.
Right.
That as silly as the comic books can be. And here he's actually writing the story, so that's we get something.
Now he didn't say bye. The last thing we saw him in Smallville doing was having a romantic picnic and saving the kid.
Well, now he's writing the story, thinking about her, but there's still no. They talk some more. Nothing goes anywhere.
And he stopped the tornado in the weather, but he's not wondering about it as Superman.
Right.
So he's not on that case. Who controlled the satellites?
No, that just happened and that was it.
Yeah. So the carryover from that story logic of things that happen to the characters.
Now her asking
doesn't happen.
Him to bring Superman to this birthday party or whatever. Again, could have worked in the other Clark Kent Superman conflict movie.
Right.
That we think would be better.
That's right. So he left Smallville and now she's asking him to come back.
Yes.
And he left for no reason, because he could have wrote the story in Smallville.
Yeah. Tells you, man, he's wonderful, but you're the best.
So she loves me for
these are things that could be if they went anywhere again. But we get this instead. These two lottery winners. Why? Why is this in there at all?
This might be one of the coolest effects in the movie. We're at 1 hour, 1 minute, 59 seconds when Richard Pryor is playing with these metal strands of something.
To finish my thought, so they're so afraid of doing anything that's actually from the comic books. So they come up with this synthetic kryptonite or whatever that was 50.5% unknown, whatever. There is, they do have the other kryptonite in the comic books that does pretty much the same thing. They could have done it. It's like the red or whatever. Okay. So they easily could have gone out and found it and been like, well, this isn't quite right, but it says it's kryptonite. Done.
Right.
And it's from and it actually has a source material. Mm-hmm. But they're just so afraid of doing anything that even remotely smells like the actual comic book.
Yeah.
That it becomes worse in the process.
Sure. And maybe in 1980...
Speaking of getting worse,
if you can't... Just when you thought that this movie had sunk to just lows of reaching for comedy and forcing things into the story.
And this is one of the longest Superman sequences in the film, and it's him getting an award and sitting.
And even though, again, he knows something happened with the satellite, he could have traced it to Gus Gorman. And Gus Gorman shows up here, he would have known who he was, and there'd be conflict, and he'd do something. Superman is so just into Lana or whatever that he just totally trusts that this guy is military.
Right. I mean, look, Superman's kind of not the stupidest guy. I mean, he's depicted in these movies.
Doesn't Superman have a bullshit detector? I mean, couldn't he at least super bullshit detector? He could voice fluctuation.
Or just detect a fake military uniform or something? I don't know.
Do you think that this is Richard Lester saying, Richard Pryor, I want you to do a version of George C. Scott and Patton. I want you to spoof that.
I think that was the original, probably the original direction. But none of this, even, his entire speech just doesn't even make any sense with anything. He's talking about plastics for some reason.
So
what does this have to do with anything?
Well, it's just the epitome of a movie where you get a comedian who's got a shtick or a certain kind of thing that he or she's known for. Yeah. And we're just going to get a vehicle and to let him just do it. Unfortunately, it's a Superman movie.
Yeah, but this doesn't even have anything to do with what Richard Pryor's stick is. He doesn't do jokes about
You know
plastics.
what? It's actually the exact... I mean, he's pretty raw about this.
Right.
So they're not only doing a disservice to Richard Pryor, but they're doing the disservice to Superman. So everyone's getting screwed in this.
You know,
there's the reaction right there of her putting the head down and shaking.
And the movies he was in I mean, you think about disservice to Richard Pryor, all the movies he was in at this time. I mean, I just remember, especially when I was a kid, watching, The Toy or this. Yeah. And, I would have thought he was just, the goofiest dude. So when I grew up and finally saw his stand-up, I was like, what the...
It's so weird that they chose to make him in these PG movies or PG-13. Yeah. He's such a rated X guy.
I think, I don't know, I mean, you can get into the whole race thing. I don't think people were ready maybe to see that in the movies.
And he was kind of breaking boundaries, or he was kind of being one of the forerunners of kind of like, hey, let's get some equal footing in terms of pay, celebrity.
I think in the movies he wasn't allowed to be dangerous.
Yeah, and we weren't ready for it. I mean, it's in the next 5 years we're gonna get our Andrew Dice Clay, Sam Kinison, Eddie Murphy. All those guys are really gonna start pushing. The whole comedy revolution, kind of pushing just boundaries of everything that's acceptable. Is there any moment here that indicates it directly affects Superman?
He's like, give us notice for super politeness. This is great. I mean,
thank you, man. This is really cool. I don't know what it does. Now, wouldn't Superman at least think like, hey, it kind of looks like Kryptonite?
I mean, I guess.
Because he didn't obviously feel Kryptonite, he knows, right? He feels it, and it's just like right away.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't have a conversation with him and just be like, hey. Now,
why is the military giving me this green Kryptonite thing?
How many scenes of Richard Pryor do we have? I mean, it's just like non-stop Richard Pryor in this.
Yeah, we get the joke here.
You couldn't do that one simple thing.
Right.
And he's being too much of a villain for his own good. He's the villain's villain. Just ridiculous beyond ridiculousness. Now, what motivated this scene here? Like, every scene we go to, we should ask the question, what previous scene motivated
Now we have Superman in the house. Yeah, I don't know how you get to this point, but...
So, the last time we saw Superman, he smiled and he was happy that he had the Emerald Stone.
Yeah, we start getting the indications that it's doing something.
But there wasn't, but now it's not near him anymore. He doesn't have it like around his neck. Like, this is a cool, like some bling I want to wear.
Yeah, we never see it again. I guess just being around it momentarily.
So there's the moment there. It affected him. But shouldn't that have happened when he touched it?
Maybe it's like a bacteria or something. I don't know.
Now let's give Reeve credit for he kind of goes into douchebag mode a little bit.
Well, yeah, he's fighting it off at first, but that's one of the downsides is that we get a brief moment of him fighting it off, and then he just all of a sudden is just dick. Like there's no fighting it more than just this one brief little moment.
So he's having fun and really kind of
going with it. He's like, I can wait.
And this is just good.
Again, he changes his expression a bit. I mean, I give him credit. He plays this well because you can see just in his face and his demeanor a completely different guy.
This is like casting couch scene right here, Superman. Here we go. We're gonna have a good close up of him. Yeah, nicely done.
He's just a little too intense.
And the framing is purposely off. Usually she would be in the far left right now.
Right.
And they kind of make it so that it feels a little bit off. That's actually some good filmmaking in terms of the idea of how to film it. So now he's like, I gotta get going. That was like a flash of...
Right. This is fighting off the effects of whatever it did. Which I guess we can assume happened from that. It never really gets that well established that this is what's going on. But.
Yeah. Now, again, this is kind of a funny idea. You can imagine them saying, like, well, what if Superman was late?
Right.
Like, how would people treat him? And notice how fast they turn on him.
I know, right? It's like, man, if you got in here... and they saved the guy, too. So it's really... They're complaining because they lost a truck. I mean...
Not much of anything now.
Well, you got here miss. But you see the guy then pull the guy out, so...
So what's the problem?
Right.
And so we get the close-up there.
And then... That's it. He's already now.
Now
jump
he's
cut.
evil.
He's already
a jerk.
He's already being weird.
Okay, let's talk about a lead.
Yeah,
and that's one of the worst green screens in history.
But no, this is on location. What are you talking about?
That side looks okay. But no, he's like, I'm mad. The first thing I'm gonna do is go to the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
He's got the scowl. I guess he's all the way around the other side of the world now.
What is he doing in Italy? Like, what motivated him going there?
Because they had this scene in the original script, and they're like, damn it, we're going to do this. Because we wanted to do it in the first place.
So the way that they wrote the screenplay was not, what is the character going to go through? What does he want in this movie? Just, what are the ideas that we have for what Superman could do?
You know, he's already got the sneer and everything. So we know, he just instantly turns into this.
Yeah. And let's... What was that like? He's like...
It was like the dick smile.
He did like a little bit of the, fangu, kind of like... That was... I mean, it was an Italian greeting, right? He kind of did it like little under the chin. And he does it right back at him.
And then immediately, all we've seen so far is a truck fall, and the Leaning Tower of Pisa gets straight, and 178 countries are censoring him. Like, what? We're missing a whole swath of something that probably we should be seeing instead of Richard Pryor in the tablecloth. Richard Pryor hanging out in the office, doing his thing.
And femme fatale, sexy girl on the ground. In yellow. I don't...
And when everybody, I think that's the thing. When everybody points to this movie, they think about the evil Superman or the Superman versus in the fight in the junkyard that comes up. But there could have been so much more done with that. It's just we just took such a leap.
Yeah.
And we didn't see any of what he's doing to cause everybody to be afraid of him. Wouldn't the world be afraid?
Yeah.
You know, the all powerful guy. You know, like similar to what the Watchmen eventually did.
Sure. I mean, now he would be an enemy. We would be super fearful of him.
Right.
And that would absolutely change the story. And we kind of have an instinct to latch on to something that's new and interesting and different about the story. So the movie's 2 hours. We remember like the 20-minute piece of it that's interesting. Yes. But all the other stuff, we're just like,
And every time I watch this, I'm struck by how little of the movie is actually given over to this whole other Superman idea. Yeah. Because you always think of it as being such a big part, and it really isn't. It should be a bigger part.
It goes by so quick.
Yes.
I think at this point he's got the 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, he's got a bit of that.
So he's yawning.
He basically, we know he's a jerk because he stopped shaving.
But did he ever need to shave?
His hair's a little greasy.
I mean,
dirty.
Is there a blade that could even shave the super hair? I mean, there's
I actually know
the
answer to that. Apparently, he shaves because how he uses a mirror to reflect his heat vision back to his face.
Ah, okay.
Apparently, that's because when people have that question, that's the response.
That's the official answer.
We get the joke that she's really, really smart. That's it.
What was that whole thing for? Nothing. And we're back to these guys. Okay, we got this is a spoof of a James Bond villain. Now, okay, screw that weather thing that we had. You know, we can still control it. But Superman could, turn tornadoes upside down, so we're going to go to something else. So sometimes you just got to take a breath and be like, it could have been something fun. Superman
think of all the interesting things we could see. Yeah, Superman being a jerk right now. We could be watching that right now.
That would be the one note. Okay, rewrite the script. Keep Superman as a jerk.
Yes.
Go. What's the next?
Show people like afraid or possibly a country declares war on him or something. Something interesting happens.
So we would need an opponent who brings and nurtures that side of him. Mm-hmm. Someone who pushes him towards being selfish. Who wants him to embrace that. Maybe it could be a woman, who kind of brings that out, seduces him. Maybe he broke up with Lois Lane. He's heartbroken. Yeah. So it could be there's got to be some organic way to pull that out of the character. Instead of just, throwing a bunch of pasta at the wall and seeing what sticks kind of thing.
I still would just like everybody to just close your eyes and imagine that Superman's doing some stuff right now.
Because again,
he's doing some evil stuff
during this whole process. The real movie's going on, where he's doing evil stuff,
right? Or he's just not doing anything. He's just flying around letting people, fall to their death or whatever. I mean, you could go to some crazy places here.
Yeah, but I think
that's a bit too far for this time period.
It's 83, so that's like a Dark Knight Returns idea. That'll
be Man of Steel 2.
Yeah, yeah. That's you could really get some interesting stuff going on with that. And then we, the audience, would just have to have the justification that it's some half of him that split off, or it's not him. So when he returns, there's a way for us to still like him for who he is. and all of a sudden, the next super leap. I can control the weather. I could scan Krypton.
Right. Now I want this supercomputer that can do anything. But why do you need this? You already showed you can do anything. Like, you already controlled the weather with a computer in Smallville. So what do you need the supercomputer for?
Doesn't he say that it can destroy Superman or it can control him?
I think it...
Because in the preview it said that. It can control Superman. And it had this image of like him being scanned.
I think that was just a trailer.
So what?
It was just supposed to be the most powerful computer in the world.
What if the computer is built early in the first 30 minutes of the movie? Superman gets scanned, and the computer somehow does something where it...
Right. If
you're that's kind of a way to do it.
Well, if you're so desperate that you can't have Brainiac as a villain, who is a computer,
okay,
then make the low rent version just like you made Rex Luthor. Just do the
Rex Luthor.
Just do the. Then have the computer be the ultimate villain of the movie and have it last a bit longer.
Yeah, and it's a win-win situation. Even if it's Brainiac,
right?
If you don't read the comics, you don't know that it's from the comics, and if you read the comics, then you're like, oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's not that much of a leap to have Brainiac in this movie. Again, just that well, we don't want it to be too comic booky. People wouldn't understand. You're doing basically the same thing here, just not calling it that.
Do you have to pay extra money to get the rights for each character?
I don't think so. I think it's just a general fear that like, oh, that's too far geeky. Normal audiences aren't going to get that.
Yeah. So
it took a long time, but eventually they were proven wrong.
Yeah. But the cost of that is that opportunities like this are ruined or missed, and
right.
Now we live in a time where the climate is immediate fan reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Filmmakers are getting feedback within the moment.
Right.
But, ultimately, does that kind of even affect future films? Like we were talking earlier, people are still going to see Amazing Spider-Man. Most people, even though it's pretty much what came before.
It took filmmakers making that leap to where, okay, people will buy this if you do it right.
Do it the right way.
Starting with at least somewhat with the Batman movies, though they had the cultural cachet of even the TV show, which despite it being different in tone, still had people ready for those type of villains. But eventually you get to the Amazing Spider-Man, which I haven't seen, but you have audiences buying the Lizard, which is way out. That would never, or at least in the minds of the producers of this movie, that never would have flown for a million years.
Yeah, 30 years ago, let's forget about it.
Right.
Now here we have him at his most evil,
with the crotch shot, this very
Marilyn Monroe,
the very obvious framing of that shot there.
How does she know to be on the Statue of Liberty, and how does he know to fly up there?
I guess she just figured he'd see her, we see I guess somebody asking her to get down, or we hear. So I guess there's some sort of scene downstairs, which maybe we could have seen. I don't know to establish that.
We are about to watch Superman.
I like the look on his face. He's got a scowl.
He's selling it well. I
like the dirty uniform.
This is like drunk, mean.
Right.
The makeup and just delivering.
We get a brief moment just so we know. Okay, he's fighting him, but forget
it. That was him kind of like trying to snap out of it. So that inner struggle isn't really explored as much as it could or should be.
Right.
Now in this movie, he doesn't, because Lois Lane in the past was kind of the character he talked to when it came to here's how I feel about who I am.
Right.
That really doesn't happen at all in this movie. There's a moment
because she's on vacation. There's no way he could fly to her.
Yeah. Even though he could find her.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like it's kind of hard to write somebody out of a movie when he could fly anywhere.
It's.
She could say she's
even
going...
in a Superman movie, again, the guy can do anything. So,
right.
So you cannot have a problem that can't be solved. That's a great point. Which in this new movie, every time I watch the trailers for Man of Steel, if I see anyone from Krypton that's ripped, I'm like, it can't happen, dude.
Yeah, he's pretty buff in the trailer. Superman is.
Now here we get Superman. He always enters the same way.
Superman has this is the most sexual that Superman will ever get in any of his movie.
So this is Superman just using his powers for the ultimate.
Yeah, this is
evil.
really this is pretty sleazy here, I have to admit.
This is actually, the tone is just so weird, right? Like, look, it just like fades away. Why does this equal Superman being a bad guy, though?
Like I said,
like,
they do mention briefly that he's become a regular person or whatever. I don't think he's supposed to be evil so much as just selfish, self-motivated, whatever.
But doesn't he have super seduction GHB powers where he could just like put you in a haze and he can do whatever he wants?
I don't even think you need those powers. You just say, "Look, I'm Superman."
I'm Superman. Like,
I don't think you really need game or anything.
so we just need Superman doesn't need any game.
I think if you show up anywhere, I think you'll do just fine.
So everyone who can relate to the fuel long lines at the gas tanks back in the 70s, the oil embargo,
can relate to this image. I guess.
So that was late 70s, which, again, everything moved slower back then, so it wouldn't seem so long ago. You get this diner shot, and who's there? Gus Gorman. Now we know.
I suppose now is when he's having second thoughts, maybe. Now, with the oil.
Yeah.
Now, when he was asked to kill Superman.
And create Kryptonite and...
and, you know, make millions of people homeless with the weather. But now with the oil.
Wouldn't it have been a little more interesting if Superman actually met Gus Gorman earlier in the movie?
Well, he did briefly.
But no, but like
the car door on him.
But like they like literally had an exchange of some kind of a dramatic scene, couple here and there.
There's a lot of ways this movie can be more interesting.
Couldn't Gorman have gone to Superman and said, "Look, I'm in this situation. These guys have got me blackmailed. You know, they're making me do these things for them. Help me out." That at least has a change in dynamic. And now we just cut to some random scene of her dealing with the high school guy.
And deciding to go to Metropolis. So, again, we actually get the culmination of her arc more than anyone else in the movie.
And that kid had a nice little reaction shot to that guy calling his mom when he's doing his homework. So that's how this... Okay, so she's mentioning... Who else do I have? And we're leaving the scene... No, not yet.
And you know what's not dealt with at all in this entire movie? So when evil Superman's doing his evil things, or not evil, but things, where's Clark Kent? Is he just off work for a couple weeks? Or,
no one's worried about him, right?
And Lana doesn't contact him at all, I guess? Or is he Clark Kent? That would be good to see.
See, now that's something we missed. I think that you cut... There should have been... You cut back... this is actually the scene I probably remember the most.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is such a good idea. Like
this was my avatar on movie forums. This is my scene right here.
Just the whole shooting the peanuts through the glass.
Nuts at the glass and drinking Johnny Walker.
This is probably the most inventive scene in the movie, like character wise.
And obviously, you can't get drunk,
which that's true. But now, why would this stuff make him depressed or angry or like?
He can't stand the sight of himself. I don't know.
But he just got laid by like the most amazing girl in the movie. So what's he going through? You know, so we're not getting every time there's some kind of action. Every time he goes through something, we need to know why and how it affects them, and we don't get that.
There's a little bad continuity there, but
and they just happen to be
shot outside showed him still sitting there. But, you know.
So they happen to drive past where Superman's hanging out.
You get the guy, yeah, of course they do. And you get the people in the background. Superman's drunk. No one's ever going to trust him.
They're creep again.
I love the delivery here.
He's washed up.
What are you looking at?
Ha! It's me, Ricky. Ricky from Smallville. We just got here and happened to find you in this place. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the most interesting part of the film.
Sure. You just think we'd have more of it. Now, we're at 125, and he changed maybe 20 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And now he's already going to have to fight with himself. This should be the arc of the entire movie.
Exactly. This is the climax.
This is 1/6 of the running time.
And it has nothing to do with the battle against the computer or Robert Vaughn or Gus.
No, it's not.
It's not
set up with any of his. It's not set up in his character at all in the first hour of the movie. Again, there's no inner conflict like we talked that could have made this more interesting.
Right.
It's a cool scene coming up here. It's by far the best part of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it has no purpose.
It's not created by anything. It's not linked to anything.
No.
It's just, again, they had their magnetic poetry of ideas on the refrigerator, and they're like, Superman fights evil self, Junkyard, cool idea. Let's go with it. And this is really fun to see, but
you could have a better structure, like we were talking about having the computer show up much earlier. And I think that was also in the original treatment, was that Brainiac was the one that split him in two.
Yeah.
So you could actually have that. The computer shows up and causes this.
Yeah.
Much earlier. And then this is his whole arc of his character.
Because, okay, so he just focuses, and there's a green flash by his third eye.
Right.
And Clark steps out of him.
Well, how this happens, nobody...
So there's...
It doesn't really matter, though. Because we do get... This is a good idea.
It is. Now, having kind of a justified motivation for it,
yeah, it would be better.
It would be better, and just like anything else, and everything else in this movie, it's just happening because it's happening, just because it needs to happen.
And the final triumphant moment of this scene too, when he comes back, would have had so much more impact if we hadn't seen Superman for a long time, like the real Superman.
Yeah.
If we knew that there was more of a struggle.
Totally. And if Robert Vaughn and there's always acid.
I guess I haven't been to many junkyards. Do they have vats of acid at junkyards?
Just hanging around like that? So now when he comes back out, shouldn't he not have his uniform on?
I think it's Kryptonian, so...
But the suit isn't.
No.
Even though he stepped out of himself. And I don't know what's an illusion and what's real. This is a visualization of something that the film should have explored throughout the whole
You've been
film.
on my nerves a long time, so show me that. Show me...
Yeah, you're saying it right.
Show me him getting sick of being Clark Kent, or the opposite.
So this movie really is about Superman being annoyed, being tired of being Clark Kent, being tired of being a nice guy.
That could be one side of him, yes.
And that's what this thematic character exploration would be about, because that's what everyone
tired of being
responds
Clark Kent.
to.
But on the other hand, you have Clark Kent just wanting to not have to do everything all the time.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. But like you're saying, I think that, it's the time wasn't ready for you. Superman letting the cat fall out of the tree or whatever, however dark you want to go with it.
I mean, they even had to show the guy getting out of the truck.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he starts to be influenced kind of like by the thoughts of Zod or something, where he was, they're kind of like pets, or
right. You don't. I mean, even now, I don't think you'd want to take that too far, because that's kind of the core of his character is being selfless. So you don't want to have him too struggle with like, screw this. But
right. Well, but you could justify it if it's him kind of wanting to be more human and selfish than kind of saint and godlyhood of just loving everybody and not his own kind of following his desires.
Well, yeah, and you establish him as wanting to be a little more selfish, not to this point of the evil Superman type, but just a little more selfish in his life. He makes a couple of decisions that way, and then we get the heightened version of it when he splits apart.
Yeah. We
get that for much longer than this. And then we get the triumphant moment when he comes back and he goes and...
Right. It could have been as silly, and it would have made more sense if somehow Gus Gorman can control evil Superman. At least that it's connecting. At least it's now everyone's kind of in the same movie together instead of just having their own scenes. And this makes no sense. Why would I just throw a bunch of tires on him? Like the cuts. That's some good editing. Why does he just win stand? Can he dodge it? Moving super speed?
Because then we get this. We get the braking tires on.
But
you have to use every junkyard prop you've got. We have the magnet. You got to use the magnet.
How low on the list was the tires? Like, that's the last one. I want to see him break out of a tire handcuff.
You got to use the vat of acid that's in every junkyard. You got to use the compactor.
That was a cool effect as the magnet kind of pushed him through the ground.
Yeah.
But now here's the thing: it's like there's no way he can be hurt at all. So
I think they can hurt each other. I would guess if they have the equal strength.
Reeve is really selling that bad character. I like his expressions a lot.
Yeah.
Just kicked the little chop to the face.
I think the kick to the face would hurt.
Yeah, I guess if it's
super
hit.
I don't think the compacting would really do anything.
So it's got to come from a super hit. But I mean, dude, you threw him in Nevada acid. That's not going to do anything.
Right.
So the only way to kill him is to do something with your own hands.
He does break his glasses.
I think, I remember this as a kid, like the whole when he gets put in there.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good little 10-minute sequence, and it's,
I remember as a kid loving this sequence, but, I didn't really care where it was coming from at that point either. Now I'm kind of like, all right, it's cool as it's in itself, but it still has no relation to the rest of the movie. This could be a great symbolic moment. Superman crushing Clark Kent's glasses. Again, if there was more.
And you can do that scene earlier while he's still kind of Clark good Superman, like as a symbol of like, here's the choice I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good visual. It's coming out. Like, of course he's not going to be dead. What are you thinking about? Evil Superman. And so meanwhile, all the tankers and things are being controlled, right? Off screen.
Oh yeah, that whole thing.
So we're probably missing a moment where good Superman has that final resolve within him to be like, I need to fight back. Like, he's at his weakest point. Because now this is interesting, where he just kind of fades away.
He was never there. The power was inside you the whole time. We get the...
So we could say Superman 3 is responsible for Fight Club.
And now he's back, and that would have been... It feels good, but it could have been more.
So that needed to be tied into the moment with the master plan of Gus and those guys.
Right.
And somehow, when he does that, it all...
It didn't... it had to be tied in, like, thematically more. I don't even think it needed to be tied in plot-wise. They didn't have to...
Where it all wraps up easy.
Right.
But that would seem like it's a moment where the opponent thinks he's got Superman. Mm-hmm. And Superman's at his weakest. And he somehow fights back.
Yeah, even if the villain isn't physically causing this to happen, it could be a villain who's telling him, why do you choose to be so selfless? Why,
Yeah.
You could have that first conversation between hero and villain where it establishes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like kind of like this archetypical Buddha Jesus thing where the devil or the pleasures of life just say, well, people aren't going to listen to you, so why bother? Just you don't have to go share this wisdom. You just focus on your own stuff. Now
things are just moving quick. Now he goes and fixes the oil tanker and immediately goes back to the Webco office.
The lasers kind of doing the thing with the oil tanker, wouldn't that kind of be dangerous? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oil, yeah. Now, of course, they knew he would come back, so they kind of...
they set this all up for him.
Just in case?
Apparently so. Yeah, always be prepared, right?
Don't they read Time Magazine? Don't they know he's acting like a so wouldn't they contact him and be like, hey, work for us? Wouldn't that have happened?
They already did that.
They should have reached out to him and be like, dude, let's work together. Wouldn't he have gathered up all the villains and hung out with them?
You're using some logic here.
That would have been a spectacular movie. And then, since they're all following him, when he turns good at the end, he puts them all in jail. All the crime in the world is solved.
No, it could be a two-parter. You end with like the most like down cliffhanger, like Superman in the White House, kneel before Superman.
And like
cut to black.
Him raising Lex Luthor's hand next to him, kind of they're both together, Cut to black. That would have been a nice. But at this point, I guess the producers are like, look, we're just gonna eke as much money out of this franchise as possible.
Now you had the budget for these freaking hot air balloons. These individual balloons.
It's great IMAX. That's an IMAX shot right there.
You couldn't have thrown some of this money towards that tornado sequence, maybe?
And putting Pryor on the donkey here.
Right.
That's kind of like them dropping the fake Gene Hackman off at the end of the second one, the reshot, and just having him climb down and do all the comedy. It's like balloons, really? Yeah, this is just
I do enjoy how the movie acts like we enjoy these villains. At this point. Like, oh, yeah, these are great villains.
If it doesn't care, we don't care. So now everything's picking up. So it took Superman to figure out that there are these opponents in the movie. It took him an hour and a half.
Mm.
He had no idea that these guys even existed.
He only knew because she had him go do the oil tanker, I guess.
Oh, earlier when she's like, go do this for me.
That's why he went back there.
But it's interesting that after she had him do that, he didn't return to her and kind of be...
Well, he came back and got what he wanted.
No, but he should have been more of like
maybe that's why he didn't...
Puppy dog, like
maybe,
a slave.
Maybe that's... Well, again, I don't think he's like under control of anything. I think he's just in it for himself. And that's even more reason why would he come back? He got it, you know... He didn't call her back. You know?
He's the ultimate,
right.
The ultimate jerk.
Yeah, we didn't see the follow-up scene of that when he sneaks out like super speed.
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. Don't call me. And she's not really feeling anything as a result of this. You know, there's no. Wouldn't you think that next time you see her, she's like in the daze, or she's still thinking about him, or you know, there's.
Oh, I thought you meant feeling something.
No.
Like, why isn't she walking straight?
Here's the big payoff coming. Why isn't she on crutches? She's just like a full body cast. What happened to you? Superman. Just went nuts. So the whole payoff of her being smart comes up in pushing this button in a second.
I guess that's if you call that a payoff.
Now notice the effect of a story that has clear motivation for the main character, an objective, an opponent in place, and now things that need to be done in order for the main character to achieve his objective. Stop the opponent.
Right.
Prevent any destruction. Destroy the computer. Whatever it is. Once that's in place, the movie moves. It starts flowing.
It does pick up some more.
Because that dramatic structure is now fulfilled. For an hour and a half, we were just kind of wandering around, meandering and not...
It takes a long time to get to this point.
Yeah. So we have a solid 40 minutes in this movie.
Right.
Basically. It still is goofy and over the top in terms of its like logic and just stretching our believability of it. Now this, like, again, just when you think it jumped the shark, no, for sure. We are at 1 hour, 39 minutes, 38 seconds.
The video game version of Kill Superman.
I think as a little kid, I thought this was cool. Cause
I'm sure. I mean, I thought the original Atari Superman game was cool, and that game's terrible. I mean... But that game actually had more motivated plot.
Like a focus to
more of a focus than this movie does, yes. Because in that game, Lex Luthor blows up a bridge. You have to go rebuild the bridge and capture the henchmen and him, and you can go back to Lois, I guess, if you hit a kryptonite. You can go back to Lois and get your powers back.
See? Clear dramatic structure.
Clear structure.
Opponent does something, hero responds, conflict ensues,
Yes.
and we're engaged. Now we're supposed to be afraid of the super missile?
Right. I think, it's kind of hard to say, oh no, a big missile. Especially, I mean, do you really want to use missiles? Didn't we see in the first movie him chase down missiles and, that's cool. He kicks a missile and blows up the enemy.
That is a pretty nice visual. And we cut back. Now all of his comedy routines are done.
And why isn't there like kryptonite on these missiles then?
Or at least 0.5 kryptonite.
Missile, yeah.
But then, as we're going to see, supercomputer figured out what the 0.5 missing was.
Right.
How would he know that the game is over?
Supposedly he's distracted, so he doesn't notice that this giant missile, which, sure. But it's not... Okay, there we go.
So what? It's an explosion.
We know they hurt him a bit, so I guess that's a...
Like you're saying,
moment.
though, if it would have been set up with something like,
right.
hey...
I just using missiles, since we've already seen that in the first one, and we saw him take care of them.
Since it's computers, wouldn't it have been interesting if maybe the computer analyzes everything about Superman, psychological profile, and then it kind of is always one step ahead of him, or it does
right.
The computer could have been used more to figure things out. And what's up with the power Superman, the multiple... He doesn't use that anymore from part 2, like the multiple displacement thing.
I think a lot of those were one-shot only powers.
I kind of wish some of these powers would be used again and again.
And
But
this is kind of another silly thing. So, this character of Gus is, this supposedly the computer is what he wants the whole time. But we don't even see him using it now. We see the Robert Vaughn character using it, and then Gus gets in here briefly and has no interaction with this thing whatsoever. So his entire motivation for the movie has never even paid off. Like, we've been seeing too much of him the whole movie. The one point when we should see him, he's riding a donkey down. He's not even involved.
100% right. Yeah. And, a donkey is also, kind of an ass and a symbol of silliness, and that's what this movie is.
Now he's having his second thoughts, which we never saw at any point in this movie. He was okay with trying to kill him earlier. He was okay with all this other stuff. Now he's as we'll see in a moment, he wants to help him immediately.
Yeah.
There's no point where he turned and realized like the error of his ways or anything. It's just whatever the plot needs, and because we need to like Richard Pryor, so he has to, of course, turn around.
And that would be dramatic and emotional, and since the decision here is let's make it more comedic, and it's basically a spoof with all the ridiculousness that's been going on. I think in some of the conversations for when they were talking about making part 4 is that a lot of them consider part 3 to kind of just be like, okay, it was spoofy, it was kind of already the end of the character.
Right.
So what was that weird force field?
It was the anti-super saran wrap.
But his laser beam could. So now, okay, you're hurting him. Now he's...
Right. But so this is already what he meant to do.
Maybe Gus didn't feel bad because he knew that the 0.5 was enough so that it wouldn't hurt him 100%. Now, this is just as bad as Superman blowing on the truck or Zod trying to blow up that truck with the gas in part 2.
Right.
We're like, this beam is on him for like 3 minutes. And it's like, how much kryptonite does it take for him to really be depleted or hurt?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, man, he's just
whatever the script requires.
whatever the Newmans decide.
Well, he had it wrapped around his neck in the first one for quite a while, and it didn't kill him. So I guess it takes some time.
You know what?
But immediately he's going to great lengths to save Superman after not giving the damn earlier.
Now he gives it. Yeah, now he cares.
And again, if we saw us for some reason for that, maybe.
We should be cheering him on to say, hey, we know you're a good guy on the inside. Right. We want to see you be redeemed.
But the only reason we think that is because it's Richard Pryor. Like, it's based entirely on the actor.
On the actor's
knowing who he is coming into the movie. There's no establishment of the character that's this. It's just, Richard Pryor, he can't be that bad.
And it's always a complex computer, but you just take out one little thing like this. So I think Jerry Seinfeld, big Superman fan, right? Mm-hmm. Named Newman Newman because he knew who the screenwriters of this movie were. So that every time he said that, there was always a disdain. There was a disdain in his voice.
I thought you were going to say Jerry Seinfeld should have played the Richard Pryor role.
I don't. Yeah, we definitely. Wait, is it still time to get some cameos for Man of Steel? Is that era over now? We kind of had it in the 90s as well, where you had
cameos,
the cameos, or like making a vehicle, like a big vehicle like this, like a superhero franchise. Mm-hmm. Would it be taken over by a big celebrity? You know, for a studio trying to just make money off of a name like that.
I don't know. I think it might be over, but
because it seems like the properties themselves are maybe the big thing now, and studios are kind of knowledgeable enough to be careful about that.
They're trying to fit the actors to the movie instead of the other way around. Yeah,
because who's like who's a pop culture icon right now? Just a celebrity of some kind.
Blanking right now, what, like Kanye West?
Kanye, I don't want to say Kim Kardashian or... I mean, the most popular comedian arguably right now is Louis C.K.
Right.
I mean, are you going to see Louis C.K. in a Justice League movie because they want to make money off him?
As the bumbling cop?
Yeah. No, probably not. No. So that era, thankfully, is kind of peaked and faded away, hopefully. At least for the superhero movies.
Yeah, we haven't really gotten... We haven't gotten in too deep in terms of the individual movies in some time, though. I mean, we had 3 Batman movies. We're about to have a 3rd Iron Man movie. Mm-hmm. We haven't kind of gotten to quite to that point where they used to just get overdone and overstuffed. And
yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if they can avoid the temptation of just throwing too much at the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that Joel Schumacher, just get a big stars to do Batman. That seems like it's kind of passed us by. Now she's all broken up. Oh, this happens to be an axe there. Okay, and then all the power in the America's been shut off. By the way,
not yet. Not until
it's starting.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah,
starting
that is
to
what
fade
happened.
Away. Yeah. That's the best angle of the movie right there.
I wasn't even paying attention for a second there. That's how much is holding my attention. So we have the hero moment for him that's not earned whatsoever.
So do we?
They love this power. They love the tractor beam hold somebody up power.
See, I mean, you made a really great point. That's the moment we should have cheered him.
Yes.
And even if we did, you said it's not earned at all.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's him saying, you know what, I've been looking out for myself the entire movie. Mm-hmm. Even if I die in this moment, I got to do the right thing. Right. I got to save Superman. Because he's, if Richard Pryor's character is about selfishness, Superman obviously is the opposite of that. So Richard Pryor's character learned something. It would have made more sense, and I would have accepted it more if they would have switched personalities. If Richard Pryor goes in Superman's body and Superman is stuck in Gus. That would have been even more... Here's one of the coolest parts of the movie right here.
Yeah, this is kind of a freaky moment here. But again, this is one of the cooler parts, and it lasts for less than 5 minutes.
1 hour, 49 minutes, 13 seconds.
They do all this whole transformation thing, and it's done away with so quickly.
You know why? Because they're looking at the script, they're like, this is good. Why is this in this movie?
We literally have a walking computer creature thing, but we could not have Brainiac in this movie. People would just never buy that.
They wouldn't buy that.
But look at what we have here instead.
We get computer robot with the hair. Her hair.
Computer robot sister.
Android attacking creation. Yeah, I wish that would have been earlier. I wish it would have been just continue, because now it's drawing power, right? It's becoming stronger. Yeah, this needs to be earlier. This needs to... Oh. Where's he gonna go? What does he need?
We get the analyzing of the
There is
solution.
nothing there.
Does a chemical analysis and finds nothing wrong with it. So this computer is not really that great either.
This is a pretty computer. And holding the blonde girl up is not a beam anymore. It's just like a ball of some kind of light that...
Whatever power we need.
And this is just some kind of... Oh, and then his classic, I'll just shoot it back at you and...
Alright, and so literally... And then no more computer.
2 minutes.
That...
But now we get, I don't know, pinball flippers of something? Just like...
He's gonna get electrocuted, I guess, but it's, again, are we really that worried? I don't...
Why
I
would
guess
this
we're
hurt
supposed
Superman?
to be. Maybe he's acting.
Yeah, again, we don't buy any of this.
But if it is the most powerful computer, maybe it is strong enough. Who knows?
So we don't understand the peril. What's the logic of the computer's powers?
Superman can't fight coaxial cables.
You ever see that movie Demon Seed?
No.
Check it out. It's like from the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Dude builds a computer in his house like for security, and it wants to give birth. So it like locks down the house and impregnates the wife. It's really, really twisty and weird, but kind of like this going on. Now, why does it turn in... You know what Superman 3 influenced? Ghostbusters 2. That is the slime from Ghostbusters 2. Why did the acid turn like that?
Because it got hot, and I guess that makes it change colors too. Which is chemically viable.
So it just got put in one... Superman placed it in the right spot so that if it bubbled over...
really warm.
The acid turns into a slushy.
And now the entire computer explodes.
Because it just sunk that one spot.
You got the right spot.
It just started to cascade.
He probably used his X-ray vision.
Which we don't
what
need
the
to
good
see.
Spot, yes.
But we could have had Richard Pryor telling us with the cape on. Here's what Superman did. Does the Blu-ray have that Richard Pryor in the corner? Like for every scene, you can have him translated with the cape and the skis on.
Yeah, that's the fast forward rewind icon is him skiing like back and forth.
Oh, now she's okay.
Sure.
The android lady's okay. The sister.
Well, Superman can't kill anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, this inspires Ghostbusters 1 right here. This is the end.
It all goes back to Superman 3.
Yeah.
Another hand. He's acting hurt.
Now we just need Winston saying he loves this town. There you go, movie.
So we're
crossover
saying
movie. Superman versus Zool.
versus Zool.
He's a worthy opponent.
There we go.
And we got the yeah. That's how you know it's 1983 right there.
So the first scene was normal handshake, and they're like, no.
And because we were all worried about the oil shortage, we have to have this. We have the scene, brief scene showing us that the oil shortage, everything's resolved with the oil shortage now. Within a minute. But maybe that's another fast forward, just like the check or the bill from the
bill.
Yes.
All that's still
that's
affecting other
from that
people.
same day that he got the bill.
And here we have the payoff of the poster of the movie,
right?
Which is the cover of the DVD here. Which, as soon as you look at that, it's just Superman carrying the burden of of producers forcing a star on him.
And he doesn't even take him to the police. Like, what? Why does he get off? Because he helped him, I guess. So I don't see Superman doing that.
So did everyone else die? Did the Robert Vaughn guy die?
He says he's going to take him to the police. We don't see it.
Oh, so he wants them to get it. This is the ultimate job hunt right here. So it starts... This movie is genius. It starts and ends with the employment theme.
There you go.
Which he turns down here. Ah. Yeah, romantic payoff right here. I'm going to make a diamond ring. That's gonna be worth that's like $5 million, like $10 million of diamond right there, and it's all perfectly shaped.
Yeah. We could have had this could have been a payoff of an earlier scene. Say when Jerk Superman could just go to the coal mine, just make tons of diamonds and just sell them. And just, that's how he funds whatever he wants to do. You know, we get the scene of him making like 50 diamonds and then just going to a strip club and just spending money.
Just like making it rain.
You know, and then we have the payoff here when he uses it for, you know, for good.
There's one left. one diamond left. That's this script needs to be written. Man of Steel 2 needs to be a jerk, and all this explored.
Well, in keeping with the theme of the movie, we have to spend far too much time with Richard Pryor now, which should be done. It really should have ended. You know, we could have had a nice moment where he says, "Yeah, see you later, man."
Yeah,
that's it.
We paid him, so we have to get our money's worth. You know.
We get the final scene between these two, which just peters out.
So he got the diamond, and now we're paying that off.
Apparently, she had dinner plans with Superman or something. For some reason, I don't know what his game is at this point, where he's making dinner plans with her as Superman again. Like they did that the one time,
right?
Because for his birthday. I don't know why this is happening again. And now it's like, you know, me and him talk a lot, and so he got you this diamond ring. Why is he giving Superman the credit for the ring?
Yeah,
I don't.
And wouldn't she say that he was kind of acting sleazy last time she saw him?
I don't know. He wanted you to have this. Like, what?
Does that mean Superman wants to marry you? Wow, a ring from Superman.
I guess it's just a gift, but then why? Like, she's not into Superman; she's into him. So why?
Shouldn't now they just do it so that there's a comedy moment here of
right.
It looks like he's gonna ask her to marry him.
Mm-hmm. Why is this guy hanging around like everywhere? Aren't we in Metropolis at this point?
Yeah, we are because she came to the big city.
Right. So why is he doing
follow her? So this is basically the scene in the diner.
Yeah.
Where he gets the revenge on the guy in the pinball machine. Yeah, same thing except an elevator. Oh my god.
That's it. So we never get any resolution to the storyline at all. It seems like they're going to become romantically involved. And then he just like says, he gives her a ring from Superman.
Yeah. Because that should have been the culmination of his emotions that Lois left him hanging on.
And it shouldn't be from Superman at all. He spent all the time he spent with her was as Clark Kent, except for the obligation he had to do as Superman. So why bring that into there at all?
It should be, this is from me. Yeah. Oh, where'd you get it? Well, you know, I called Superman for a favor.
Right. But
it's
I wanted you to have this. Instead of he wanted you to have
so the kid should
just
be
that one
like,
little thing.
The kid should be like, I'm gonna have a daddy. Instead of, you know, it's from Superman. Finally gonna have a dad. They don't carry her over in the part 4 at all.
No.
So it's on the middle finger, right? It's not on the ring finger. And if she was in New York, she would be at the police station right now because someone stole it from her the minute they saw it on the street. That thing's like $20 million. No way that you're walking around with that. It was 10, now it's 20.
It's actually a weapon, I think.
Hey, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to the powers here, so if she points it, maybe Superman appears.
Now we have computerized being a fruit lottery for...
Because the joke's got to come back.
This is the thematic kicker of the movie. Computers are crazy.
Oh, here we go. If you're going to end the movie somehow, this is what we got to do. You know what this is 38. This is chapter 38 on the DVD. You know what this is called? Lean on Superman. Love it.
We get the double take, and
now he does the hello.
There's our final superheroic moment. Ethnic comedy.
You know, for what it is, it's probably one of the better jokes.
We ended this epic.
Yeah,
which doesn't fit at all.
Yeah,
like, yes,
yeah.
Superman, savior of the leaning tower. Souvenir stand.
Just this always has to be the default ending,
right? And it's not. Doesn't. We didn't even get the default the good credits, but we got we still had to have this ending.
He should have right there been holding a pie in the other hand and just like push it at the screen.
push it at somebody flying.
Like there's an astronaut and he just smashes them in the face. So now we go back to the kind of the normal credit effects from the other. But what a horrible man.
You think this is horrible?
So we'll talk about part 4. We're gonna do it. We've made it this far.
Yes.
So there's no going back now. It's frustrating to see that there was a cool enough concept in here. There were some ideas for the character,
right?
Some opponents, some potential opposition.
Well, it used to be the curse of the 3. You couldn't make a third movie and have it. If your sequel was good, you still couldn't make a third good movie.
Yeah,
and that was.
Well, it all goes back to the character. It all goes back because sequels usually tend to be like,
right.
Here's those awesome set pieces. Whoa, now we're doing something crazy. I didn't watch it this far. No, this is weird.
Yeah, this isn't. It's like we didn't have time. We didn't have the budget to do this for all the. We didn't have the budget to do the cool backlit credits for everything. So here's everybody.
Wait, I don't think I've ever seen this in a movie before. This is weird. This might be the best part of the movie. Superman flicking the peanuts. The most original peanuts.
Yeah.
And this is actually creative here. And I think when the producers were in the kind of editing room, they're like, "Oh, what do the credits look like?"
This is such a low rent Star Wars scroll. Because you can you can see that they're like just cards in front of each other.
Yeah, I know, but
scrolling past.
It's kind of like I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, and
but they're like the producers left and the editor was like, "I'm gonna mess around. I'm gonna do this here." And this is just totally strange. This is what happens when producers just think that.
I didn't know Brad got an as credit. It was Gavin O'Hurley as Brad.
As Brad.
Because everybody's gonna remember that character as the breakout character of this movie.
You never know. There's no predicting anything. This movie stands as just like when producer hubris is just like.
Mm-hmm. Studio hubris.
You know, we're gonna be at war with the actors. No Hackman. Rex. What is it? Rex
Ruther. And the studio decides things that just
we're gonna
based on marketing that they don't understand.
Yeah. So it does seem, at least for the superhero movies, we're kind of in this nice spot where they're trying to do the right thing. They're, like, especially this new Superman movie. The Russell Crowe footage in that new trailer looks amazing when he's the father. Just that totally fits. They're expanding the battle on Krypton and all that, and General Zod. So they're really trying to do something. They're really trying to do it the right way nowadays instead of this was the '80s mentality.
It's kind of interesting to me that the 4 original Superman movies followed almost the exact same arc as the 4 Tim Burton Batman, or the starting with the Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah.
You had the original movie, which was like a big breakthrough hit. Then you had the second movie, which a lot of people felt was superior to the original. And then you have the third one, which switches tone, and which is the switch in tone, has maybe a few good ideas, but starts to go wrong. And then the fourth, just complete disaster.
Yeah. Well, it's that story cycle where it's new, so we're excited. We want more of it. We get it. But then by the third step, we're like, we're kind of getting tired. And like here, where we see it's just. They're basically just listing, here's stuff Superman can do, instead of what's the journey the character needs to go on.
I can understand after 2 movies saying, okay, we want to maybe go in a different direction with directors or whatever, but previously they would go the wrong way. It would be, all right, we want to change it up a bit. Let's just go more comedic. Let's go more campy instead of. There are other changes you can make. You can go different directions you can go. I mean, I think in terms of the thought that goes behind it, I think franchises are generally better off now. I mean, you still have the ones not so much, but I think a lot of these do seem to have more thought put into them.
Yeah. Especially something like a Superman or a Batman or these comic books where there's 40 years of history, 50 years.
Well, you even have series where now they have series of 8 movies. You have the Harry Potter series, which never really took that huge dip in quality or anything, and did switch directors and still was able to switch up the feel without sacrificing any of the actual basic tenets of the story. So that's I think I actually no matter what you might think of because I'm not a huge Potter guy, but I think that series is kind of the template for how to do a lot of these franchises now, because they did it for so long.
Yeah,
kept the quality at a high level.
Great point, because that's a rare example of where the books had all been written. Well, the last ones were kind of being written as the series was going on.
Right.
But to do, it's 8 movies?
Yeah, it's 8 because they split the last one into 2.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking over 10 years.
Yeah.
And just to maintain quality, that's a real nice landmark of,
and they
please look to this.
And they switched. In fact, they actually, I mean, I feel, and I think it's the consensus that they actually improved over time. That the first 2 were probably the weakest.
Yeah.
And they only got better. And they switched directors like 4 times. And
well, the future of movies almost seems to be like, you just treat it like a TV series. Like, you just write a season of like 4 movies.
Right.
8-10 hours, and you just really lock it down tight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because who's going to movies now? Watching these small artsy films. It's all just straight to Netflix, pretty much.
Yeah, and there's more respect for the source material for these movies now. Where it was just throw whatever. Now there's actual. I mean, they don't have to be slavishly dedicated to making everything exactly like the books or the comic books or whatever they're based on, but there's at least more respect for where they're coming from and not just saying, this is kid stuff or whatever, and we can just do whatever we want.
Right.
Recording this as summer movie season is coming up.
It's almost here.
Shortly.
I mean, we got Oblivion coming up this week.
Oblivion almost feels like it's kind of that first in that Matrix slot. April. And then we have Iron Man 3 May, the first weekend of May, right?
Right. Iron Man will be the first one, and then Star Trek. Star Trek's like a week or 2 after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to get into World War Z and Man of Steel, and it'll be on.
Yep.
We'll see if they deliver. I think one of the big things here, one of the things that's missing in a lot of movies is just an element of it is that when a character is going through something, they need someone to express things to.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times nowadays we don't get that, so we don't feel like we're connected to the characters. In the first 2 films here, we had Superman talking to his father, to his mother, to Lois.
Right.
In this movie, he doesn't talk to anybody, and because he's not even on screen that much. So it's just really, I mean, you could really see looking at this movie, the intention is Richard Pryor as the focal point.
Yeah, and
Superman just in the background.
Even when he talks to Lana, it's more about her situation than his.
Right. Because he's just static. And then they just somehow throw in, because instinctively in stories we're like, there's got to be something going on with the characters, so they do this awesome bad guy fight and bad guy acting like a jerk thing.
Right.
And that intrigues us, but then they don't do anything.
That's his entire arc of this movie is in that 20 minutes where
it's just super fast, That's why these movie nights are really fun, because it's like scene by scene analysis. You can really see how kind of things fit and they don't fit, and what's being forced, and like where did that come from?
Right.
Just you take the time and you learn the lessons. Hopefully, the new version of this franchise, the reboot, seems like it's in good hands. But let's just make sure that we learn our lessons from this. So.
One thing is, you still don't see a lot of Clark Kent in that trailer. You see him like saving people not as Superman, which is an idea that has been around for some time. They did it in Smallville. They did it in one of his origin stories. I think had him spending several years like doing that, like hiding, like is like someone that people don't really know what's going on, but that he's going around saving people without actually being Superman himself. So I mean, there's precedent for that, but we don't. Is he still a reporter? Like, there's zero. There is zero.
I feel like
that's what I'm wondering, if there's a complete change of that going on here.
It doesn't seem like they're gonna do the whole glasses. I'm this guy, and then
maybe we're just not seeing it yet, but
maybe they're just gonna go away from it. It's much more.
That'd be a huge leap to do away with it. That's a central part of the character. You can't get rid of that. So
it almost has like this Bruce Wayne feel, where like he just disappears in Asia somewhere, like some mysterious. Because he's like, you must find your purpose in this world, no matter how long it takes. And he like goes like on an oil rig or on a fishing boat, and he's just like disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And then he.
It sounds like. But in some of the voiceover in the trailer, it sounds like Lois Zim has been trying to hunt down this guy who's saving people, but not.
Yeah. So I think they're really. It seems like they're stretching it, that she's searching for this mysterious Good Samaritan or something. I'm
wondering if perhaps there is no Clark Kent, but maybe at the very end of the movie, it's a reveal of Clark.
Okay.
Like possibly, like after he's shown as Superman and everything, he does whatever he's doing, then maybe
then he like shows up to work with her, and she's there, and she's like, "Oh, who are you?" He's like, Clark Kent." You might have just called her.
That's speculation. I don't know.
So one last question I want to ask is, as we saw with part 3 here, if a studio senses that they got nowhere else to go with it, like, let's just assume they're not super greedy, which is a big stretch. Because I kind of feel like any studio that owns a property like this is kind of like the Robert Vaughn character with like the oil. Like, they're so dependent on it to bring in the box office. I think they know, like, you know what, we're done with this character. So shouldn't we be okay with just being like, you know, we don't need Spider-Man for another 10 years. Like, to see that story, to hear that story, there's nowhere to go with it. We've seen it.
From a lot of the reaction, I mean, obviously it did well enough, but I think plenty of people would not have minded.
Or what if it was Spider-Man 4 or 5, or like a sequel? You know, the sequels keep going. There might, because Harry Potter's like a big. That's a big story.
But there's also an ending.
There's an end.
Set. We know it ends here, and that's it.
And that I would wish it'd be more like that.
You even see with Lord of the Rings now, where it was a story with an ending. They have the prequel, but they're just stretching that The Hobbit, which is a shorter book than any of the Lord of the Rings books, and they're stretching it out to those 3 movies using any other source material they can find, and it feels like that kind of overextending.
I almost wish they would do like what Lost did, like. We're ending it after this many episodes. Like, here's a new idea. I don't care if it makes $1 billion.
And the moment
it's over,
behind the scenes they decided of an endpoint of Lost, it got so much better.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they were kind of stuck in that holding pattern.
Kind of like Superman 3, where like
we don't know how long this show is going to go, so we have to have episodes where not much happens.
Yeah, so we just want the revenue dollars for the ads and week to week and season finales move story forward. So we get 20 episodes of filler.
This kind of trilogy setup that we have right now, where it seems like a lot of these franchises basically want to do 3 and out.
Yeah,
I think that's a good move. The only thing is, they're not going to be satisfied with that. You do the trilogy and then you reboot it again.
So see, because that's the the way out. Where instead of a bad sequel, we're okay with a reboot, and it's just so weird to me that like within 5 years, how different can it be? So here we're talking over 20 years. So we need
Returns was just...
But this is like a reboot. So we need it for this character because now with the effects, with the different times, it's interesting to see. But I mean, do we really need to see another Batman in 2 more years?
No.
We don't. Let's be honest. I mean... Well, but the curiosity gets us. Like, oh, how did they do it?
Yeah, I think that you get the trilogy aspect, and if they're good, I think maybe they take longer to maybe reboot. The Spider-Man reboot probably doesn't happen as quickly if 3 was more well liked, universally liked.
Great point. If it felt like a conclusion of some kind.
If it was, even if it wasn't a conclusion, but if it was more, again, universally liked, like it got a lot of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
So if it didn't have that, I think even if Raimi left after the 3rd or whatever, you wouldn't see another one come out quite so soon.
Good point. Really good point.
It's almost, if you don't have that end point in mind, then it's inevitable you're going to make sequels until there's a bad one.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to start over or figure something else out. But it's only until that happens.
Yeah, and I think now...
And I can see it at one point, because I mean, if you have a character and you like it, if you can make 5 good Spider-Man movies and they're good, then that's great.
Yes.
Keep going with it.
Agreed.
So you don't really know when it's run its course until you get a bad movie. That's the downside. It's almost, if you want to have a continuing story with no end point, you're going to have a bad movie eventually, and that's...
Well, it almost feels like a universal thing, though, with... There's only how far a character's journey tends to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a human life cycle, you kind of everybody experiences the same things, usually, if it's 60, 70 years of a life.
Mm-hmm.
So you can push your character through so many things. And even in the comic books, where they go on for 20, 30, 40 years, they eventually do parallel realities or go back in time, because the character can only go so far. Yeah. So, if you could really just concentrate it, do it well, and say it's 7 movies, we're going to do everything.
I mean, I think there's always stories to tell, though. I mean, they still come up with Superman stories to tell, and it's always... I think when a character's been around a long time, it becomes... some of the stories become less about character and more about the thematic, what the character means and all that type of thing.
Right.
Especially with a character as iconic as Superman.
Maybe to the other characters in the so where maybe Superman reaches the point where he's gone through the emotions of wanting to be human and giving up powers and kind of fighting this, and he says, you know what, I'm going to be Superman. So now he stays the same, but other people that he encounters, they change, or they somehow because what we saw in this movie was a film where basically Superman didn't go anywhere except for those 20 minutes.
Right.
And it was totally uninteresting because we're just doing set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And the set pieces don't mean anything because they're not coming from inside.
Right.
But once it did come inside, the Junkyard was awesome because it was a battle about good and evil and, this, and it's always character. I don't know. That's what I always want to fight for. All right, so the final leg of the journey for the 80s Superman. We're going to skip Supergirl, which technically... This is 1983. Supergirl's 1984.
Same producers and everything, so there is some connection, but I don't know enough about that.
Do they mention Supergirl in the book you're reading? The Superman book?
Yes,
okay.
Reading the unauthorized biography of Superman. They do mention that movie. They talk about the original ideas for that. Again, Brainiac was supposed to be there. They didn't. Warner Brothers again nixed it. I guess Christopher Reeve was supposed to have a cameo in the movie. That didn't happen. Not a good movie. It's better than Superman 4, though.
Okay. So that's a bonus if anyone wants to go off and watch Supergirl.
And if you see Man of Steel do well, maybe you'll see that eventually. I don't know how. I mean, they could probably do some sort of take on the character, perhaps.
It wouldn't have to somehow, because now it's like Superboy, Supergirl, and it gets kind of starts diluting it and becoming cheesy.
The Superdog.
Yeah, exactly. Super Family, and then the family. What was the Michael Chilica's No Ordinary Family or Ordinary Family? So it gets into that range. So. All right, man, we made it, and we didn't drink. We didn't drink at all during this one.
Might need to for 4 though.
4 possibly. Every time someone says Nuclear Man, we might have to.
Just every time John Cryer's on screen.
Or actually, we had shots of vodka here, and we drank every time Superman was on screen, but it was so few that it didn't affect us at all.
We drank every time there was an interesting plot development.
Anytime anything made sense, we drank.
Yes.
So the bottle is full.
So coming soon, Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
The Quest for Peace. The Quest for a Good Script. Next on the agenda.
What a total sequel disaster. It was the 80s. They were thinking about box office, they had a big name star, and they forgot totally about Superman. It's a great example of what happens when you don't focus on character. Hopefully these lessons will be learned, wisdom will be gained, and Man of Steel 2 or 3 won't venture into this territory. Thanks very much for hanging out for this movie night. As mentioned, we will return for Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Until then, I want to say thank you for your support. It's always greatly appreciated. Remember to subscribe so that you can keep up to date on the newest videos. Let's choose our movies wisely because we get more of what we pay for. So if we don't want let's not watch. And until next time, long live good movies.